A very good morning to all distinguished gathering, to the Y20 talk and climate action. As we gather here today for this meaningful event, let us take a moment to center ourselves and embrace this positive energies which surround us. To commence the proceedings, I would like to welcome Preeta from Brand Agata to Rental Kamutai Vartu, and I also kindly request everyone to rise up.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்த கெழுதொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிது தெக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திறம்பியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே. Thank you.
And once again, kindly request everyone to switch off mobile phones and get on silence. Moving on, I'd like to invite Mridula Manusky, founder of Plantera, a non-government organization, to kindly come forward and extend a warm welcome to our distinguished gathering.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and passionate advocates for a greener world, very good morning and warm welcome to the Planchera's Y20 talk in collaboration with Kumaraguru College of Technology on topic of climate action. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. The G20 is an international forum consisting 19 countries and the European Union that addresses global issues. The Y20 is the youth engagement group of G20, and it provides a platform for young leaders to discuss challenges and propose solutions. This year, is hosting the G20 Summit, and it's a pride for us to bring this Y20 Talk event to everyone here. I'm Mridula Manasvi, founder of the Planchera and an IB1 student at Manchester International School. The Planchera is a dynamic youth-led non-profit organization with a team that is globally present in over 15 countries. Our mission is to educate every individual about the seriousness of climate change and encourage them to take on the role of saving the environment to save Terra for next generations. Today we gather here at the prestigious Kumaraguru College of Technology, standing at the pinnacle of something extraordinary. This is not just another event, it's the Planchera's very first live gathering, transcending the virtual realm that has connected us thus far. It is an exciting privilege to collaborate with Kumaraguru College of Technology, an esteemed institution renowned for its commitment to technology, innovation and sustainability. As we embark on this collective journey towards a sustainable future, I'm thrilled to announce that the Planchera will soon unveil a revolutionary mobile application. The app is more than just a tool. It is a gamified experience that celebrates and rewards every eco-friendly actions. By tracking your efforts and earning virtual Terra coins, you will embark on a journey of thrilling adventure of personal growth, topping leaderboards, and unlocking enticing offers from our partnered brands. So with extra offers for anything that is brought as eco-friendly products. So this way, we are promoting the choice of eco-friendly products. In this gamified world will lead to planting of a tree by every team member in their respective country. Together, we'll create a global community of change makers united by a shared passion for our planet's well-being. We are privileged to have with us a distinguished personality, our principal speaker, Mr. Eric Solheim, the 6th Executive Director at United Nations Environmental Programme, former Norwegian Minister and Governing Council member at Tamil Nadu Climate Council Committee. It's an honor to have him here by invite. With his vast expertise and experience, Mr. Eric Solheim will deliver a principal speech on the topic Youth and Climate Action. We eagerly look forward to his insights and guidance. Welcome, sir. We are delighted to welcome Mr. Balakrishnan Velia, Commissioner of Police, Coimbatore City, as our guest of honor. In addition, we are extremely glad to have Mr. Anmol Sarwat, Chair of Y20 India, join us virtually for a guest talk. Our event will feature 2 captivating panel colloquiums that aim to delve deeper on climate solutions. The first panel, Technology and Climate Action, will be graced by the presence of esteemed climate experts, Mr. Kumaraguru and WISCO and Managing Director at Mangalam Educational Institutions, Mr. Sundar Muruganandam, Managing Director at Versa Drives Private Limited, and Mr. Hari Prasad, Founder at Beyond Sustainability Network. They will enlighten us on the innovative technologies and their role in combating climate change. The second panel will discuss on the topic of climate literacy for climate actions. Will feature esteemed climate experts, Dr. Jay Prakash Sia, Head Department of Communications at PSG College of Arts and Science, Mrs. Sujani Balu, Convener Awareness at Tirutali, and Mr. Bari Didasan S., co-founder at Arilagam. They'll shed light on the importance of climate education and communication in driving climate action. We're grateful to have Mr. Balukumar Tangavelu, India Head Outreach at Cognizant, and Mr. Saravanan Chandrasekharan, General Manager Sustainability at Kumaraguru Institutions, as our moderators for the panel discussion. Their expertise and guidance will ensure a fruitful and engaging conversation throughout the day. Welcome all. A special thanks to Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Dr. V. Geeta Lakshmi, for providing us the support and seed balls which will be distributed amongst the attendees after the event. I applaud each and every one of you for taking a time to be here. Remember, every small action counts, and your presence here signifies your commitment to making a difference. Therefore, you have taken a significant step towards a sustainable future. Together, we'll create a powerful ripple effect that will shape the destiny of our planet. On behalf of the Planchura and Kumaraguru College of Technology, I extend a heartfelt welcome to all of you, over and on dais, to this wonderful event. Let's embrace this moment with open hearts and minds, ready to learn, connect, and forge a path towards more greener and resilient world. Thank you, and let the Planchura's Y20 talk on climate action in collaboration with Kumaraguru commence.
Thank you so much. Moving on, it's my honor to introduce the eminent personality. This person is a predominant person in the fields of environment, development, and peace negotiation. As Executive Director of the UN Environment Program from 2016 to 2018. During which he focused on global environmental issues and worked closely with organizations like NITI and all, with global policy think tank of the Government of India to promote green initiatives. Prior to this role, he chaired the Development Assistance Committee of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where he emphasized the role of the private sector and tax in the development finance. He spearheaded the initiatives such as the Sustainable Development, Investment Partnership, and the ADIS-TAC initiative. As Norway's Ministry of the Environment and International Development, this person played a crucial role in increasing the Norwegian aid to 1% highest in the world and implementing the Nature Diversity Act, considered a milestone in environmental negotiation. Also known for this work as a peace negotiator, facilitating the peace process in Sri Lanka and contributing to peace efforts in several places. He has received numerous awards for his work on climate and environment, including Human Environment Championships of the Earth Award. Currently, he holds advisory roles in various international bodies, chairs the Water Resource Institute. He is a respected scholar and serves on the boards of multiple universities and welfare organizations, also recognized for his advocacy on climate change and also his commitment to human welfare and development. As ladies and gentlemen, put you on speaker, who is the 6th UN Environmental Executive Director and former Under Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you and welcome you onto the stage, sir.
So, good morning, Kumaraguru. Namaste, Vanakkam. Vanakkam. So happy to be in this great city of Kumaraguru and to be at such a prestigious university as here. I'm so happy to be with you. And I will tell you, you are also very, very lucky. You are lucky to be at great educational institutions, but you're also lucky to be young people in India at the time they promised in India. And we tend to forget how much positive has happened. Look, India just celebrated 75 years. What was the situation in India in 1948? Life expectancy was about 30 years, which means, sorry for all the people on the first row there, you could all have been dead, or at least most of you. Now life expectancy in India is 68. It will soon pass 70, and I will not even be surprised if life expectancy in India in the next decade will pass life expectancy in the United States of America. That just happened by China and other Asian nations, so for sure it can happen also in India. And in 1948, maybe 15% of the Indian population could read and write. We don't know exactly that. Maybe around 15%. Now, basically, every young child, boy or girl in India started school. True, quality is not good enough in many places, as everyone knows. But everyone starts schooling, and it's a completely different situation from 1948. So that's been enormous progress. But I think there's every reason to believe that the progress in the next decades can be even more. India now has the highest economic growth of any major nation in the world, even higher than China. India has a young and aspiring population. India has a strong leadership at the center and a strong leadership in many of the states. India has a vibrant business community and strong educational institutions. And the economy of India, if it continue like this, will double just in 10 years. That means on average every individual will double as each 10 years into the future. That's quite an enormous change. And in all likelihood it will happen. And of course this will also make India a much more powerful nation at the world scene. We will have China, we will have the United States, yes, Europe will still have some power, but India will be one of the main nations in the world. So you are lucky to be part of this. But I know that you have come here because many of you have a big heart for the environment and a great engagement of green issues and climate. So you will be aware that we have an environment crisis on the planet. There is enormous progress on basically everything else, because the progress I described in India is not just in India, it's the entire world. Average human being is much taller, much fatter, but that's basically for good, because it's much better to be a little bit overweight than to die from hunger. The average human being is also much better educated and in much better health than at any point in human history. So there's progress in basically every way of measuring it. But we have a triple environment crisis. First, climate change is a major challenge for planet Earth and for humanity. You have seen enormous flooding in Pakistan last year. People in Pakistan are still suffering from that flooding. Many people lost their homes and their properties. Here in Kumaraguru, you have experienced a heat wave in the last few weeks and months, much higher temperature than what we have normally had for the same period of the year. If you watch TV, you will see wildfires in North America and Europe. In China last year, they had a drought in the province of Sichuan. You see the results of climate change happening basically everywhere. That we should also realize that while the forces of nature are stronger, our capacity to handle them is also better. We should not despair. We should just take up the fight, as young people have done the fight in Kumaraguru. Midula, you sent me a letter. I was so pleased to hear about this great movement of Pantera. We have been able to spread the message. Not just you, of course, you have initiated that you cannot do it alone. So many other people have helped you, but thank you for spreading this message to young people in many parts of the world. That's great service. But climate change is a big problem, but our ability to handle this is also better than in the past. 3 years ago, there was a major cyclone in the state of Odisha. Odisha is a much poorer state than Tamil Nadu. It was one of the most forceful cyclones in modern Indian history. How many people died? Maybe 10. Some people say it was a little bit more. But it was hardly no one died from an enormous cyclone. Why was that? Because India's first-class weather service, who predicted exactly when and where the cyclone would hit, so that people could be prepared. And Odisha has a decent shipping industry with an enormous amount of buses to bring people out of the hotspot, so that they were not there when the forces of nature came. And there was no one day died later from hunger or disease as a result of the catastrophe. It was bad. Enormous economic impact for many people, and a very low number of deaths. If the same had happened, say, 30 years ago, there would have been thousands of deaths from such a force of nature. So climate change is a big problem, that we also are better prepared to handle it. Second issue is pollution, particularly when northern Indian cities like in Punjab or in Delhi are among the most polluted cities in the world. These need to come down. If you ask can happen, we look to China. 15 years ago, the Chinese cities were the most polluted in the world. Just come down like that. Why? Good efforts by the government to bring it down. And of course, the support and push from the people. People of China said, we cannot live this way any longer. Will you please solve this problem for us? Thirdly, we have enormous destruction of nature. Forests are cut down, mangroves are destroyed, some wildlife in many places of the world is rapidly decreasing, and those things need to stop. But also here there is progress. Look, the number of tigers in India has doubled in the last 2 decades. Why is that? Good conservation efforts. Linking national parks so tigers can move from one national park to the others. And also the spirit of India, which is, in my view, remarkable. Those tigers occasionally kill people. Still, the people of India is ready to accommodate the tigers, keep them there, because it's good for nature, but because it's also good for the economy, because tigers attract tourists and create jobs. But in many parts of the world, if an animal is killing a human being, it will simply be immediately eliminated. That doesn't happen in India, where there's a tiger or elephant, and that speaks loudly about the love for nature of the people of India, that they accept some of these losses and still keep and even increase the number of tigers. There's not just tigers. In Africa, the number of gorillas are coming up. There's a good conservation effort there. In some other parts of the world, China, the number of giant pandas is coming up because of good conservation effort there. So we know how to solve this issue also, that we need to step up. So we have this mixed picture of economic progress basically everywhere, but in particular in India, but also the major environmental challenges. So how do we go about it, and what can young people do? Very often I get the question from young people, does it matter what I do? Will I do something which matters? Well, then we do not. It matters what she does, but because there are many other young people in the world who take action, and it matters. And if you want to look to one person who was the greatest Indian of any time, maybe the greatest human being of any time, then Mahatma Gandhi came back to India in 1915. It's not extremely young, but it was not old either. He picked up the fight against the British Empire. The biggest, strongest empire it had ever existed. It was said that the sun never sets in the British Empire because it's everywhere. It was so strong. No one thought Mahatma Gandhi and the Indian people could defeat the British Empire. British thought it was completely possible. But Mahatma Gandhi maybe had one of the very, very few Indians who thought it possible also. Most people would say this cannot happen. But in 3 decades, 30 years, such a short time in history, he destroyed, with others, the British Empire, and India was liberated. And it shows the power of people when some people take the lead and others mobilize in large numbers to drive political issues. That's exactly what we need today for the environment. We need leadership for activists, but we also need everyone else to come together in a people's movement on our earth. I will come to India, but just briefly, let me take a world view. A lot is happening in other parts of the world also. China is now the world leader on everything going green. People in Europe and the United States have not realized, because they're so arrogant that not opening their eyes what's happening in other parts of the world. Actually, 82% of all solar panels in the world, they're made in China. 70% of all electric batteries in the world, they're made in China. 98%, due to that figure, 98% of all electric buses in the entire world are running on Chinese roads. So China is far ahead of anyone else that can give a figure upon figure. They are the leaders. Why? Because the government of China has made a deliberate decision to go green. Or in the words of President Xi Jinping, green is gold. They are going green not just because of the environment, but also because they believe they can get any number of jobs, capture any number of markets by going green. We also in the United States of America, President Biden has now launched so-called Inflation Reduction Act in America. But it's not about inflation. It's all about the environment. And it's a package of enormous subsidies for everything green, making electric cars in the United States, making green hydrogen in the United States, every sort of green movements in the United States, again with the same double purpose as in China and in India, going green for nature, but also going green for the economy and people. And in Europe, the European Union has launched a Green New Deal to make it more costly to remain in coal and oil, to make it more easy for business to move into green development. But let me speak mainly about India. Because India is now moving from being, yes, somewhat in the back seat on the environment, into the front seat on the environment. And on so many issues, India is now also a lead nation for the environment, but we also need to do more. Let me go through the main areas where we need to cover. Energy, transport, tree planting and nature, and it's a circular economy. First, energy. When we turn on the light in the morning, most of us do not consider where we get energy. Is it coal, or is it solar, or is it wind? It's exactly the same, so no one noticed the difference. But it makes a lot of difference, both to the economy and to the environment, whether it's powered by solar or by coal. And the good news is, of course, that solar power is now cheaper than coal everywhere in the world. That's why the shift is now happening very fast. For very, very long, the movement was very, very slow, and then all of a sudden it took speed, and that's because it now makes economic and environment sense to shift from oil and gas and coal into solar and wind. And Tamil Nadu has an enormous potential for renewable energies. Tamil Nadu potential is more or less unlimited. Only God sets the limits for the Tamil Nadu potential there. Tamil Nadu has the biggest wind potential, wind energy potential, any state in India. The main competitor may be Gujarat, but Tamil Nadu has the biggest potential. That's for onshore wind on land, but also offshore wind between India and Sri Lanka. There's an enormous opportunity for wind energy. That wind energy can also power green hydrogen, which is a way of storing the energy and using it for shifting of aviation or in any other ways. Tamil Nadu has also an enormous potential for solar energy, so and you can combine wind and solar. And then people will ask that why the sun is shining most of the time in Tamil Nadu, it's not shining always. Why is there a lot of wind in Tamil Nadu? Thank you so much. It's not blowing all the time. So what do you do when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing? And a good answer to that is hydropower, pump storage. You pump up the water when the sun is shining, you release the water when there is no sun. And then you get a stable system of energy, which makes every single bulb shining all the time, every factory running, every air conditioning equipment working, just it works on solar or wind rather than on coal. And mind you also, India imports all its oil and gas, which means whenever India can replace oil and gas with solar, it's using the domestic energy. The sun is Indian. The oil and gas is coming from Russia or Saudi Arabia or somewhere else. Whenever you turn into solar, you create the jobs in India rather than somewhere else. It will be better for Mother Earth, but added you also save money which can be better used for education and health in India, because you don't pay this money to other nations, you save it here. So it's every reason for India to move fast into solar and wind. And Tamil Nadu again can be the lead part of the nation in this great transformation. It's happening, but we need to speed up. As you have seen, Prime Minister Modi is launching a number of solar initiatives, and he's doing this because exactly this win-win opportunities, good for the economy and good for ecology, all the same. Second big transformation is transport. 10 years ago, there was one metro in India. That was the New Delhi Metro, and even that was a very tiny one. It may have had 1 or 2 lines. Now the New Delhi Metros will soon compete with the biggest metro systems in the world, which is of course Beijing and Shanghai, or being one of the biggest metro systems in the entire world. And there are 27 cities in India which are constructing metro systems. Some of them elevated and not underground, they're elevated, but it's a public transport system which of course is most needed in all Indian cities. Added, India is at the very start of the electric revolution. 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, they can all go electric, and it can happen much faster than people. My nation, Norway, last year, 87%, nearly all new cars sold were 100% electric. We had a Hyundai, Korean car, now we have a Volkswagen, German cars. These cars can move 500 kilometers with no charge. That means you can go from Coimbatore to Bengaluru without charging. You can go there and you charge there and you come back without need to charge on the way. And if you need to charge, it can be super fast. You can have a cup of masala tea, and when you drink the tea, you charge the car. No person I've ever met who moved from a gasoline to an electric car wanted to go back. Why? Because the electric car is not only better for the environment, it's also a much better car. There's much fewer rotating devices, so there's much less repair. It's much less noise. It's much more high-tech. You can, in my nation, Norway, we have the enormous benefit that, I mean, our weather is very cold. In winter, normally, if you have a car, you go down and you sit freezing like that for the first 15 minutes in the car. With the electric car, no. You just take up your app, put on the heater of the car from the app, and when you come down, you sit down in the car, it's as warm as your house inside. Completely comfortable. So again, here we have this win-win situation. Going electric is, yes, very, very good for Mother Earth, but it's also good for the economy, and it's good for people's health and well-being. It's a better car. The greatest inventor of all times, Mr. Edison, was American. He was sitting in America, he was in despair, because at the time they had both electric engines and gasoline engines. And he saw that the gasoline engines would be winning the competition for certain reasons, and he was in absolute despair. He was crying because he felt the electric engine is so much better. But now he will get his revenge, because in the next few years, electric cars will overtake the market everywhere. And this can happen very, very fast, and this is also good economic policy for India. Look, there is no Indian well-known car brand in the world. There's no Toyota. You go to Africa, everyone knows Toyota. You go to India, everyone knows Toyota. You go to Europe, everyone knows Toyota. It's a brand which is so well-known that basically it's as well-known as Buddha or Jesus Christ. Everyone in the world knows Toyota. There's nothing like that of Indian brands. But India can leapfrog into the electric brands and capture markets. Here in Tamil Nadu, there is a company called Ola. I think you all are aware of Ola. They have a beautiful factory in northern Tamil Nadu on the border to Karnataka. There are 2,000 young Tamil women working there. The founder of the company told me, I really wanted to show what Tamil girls and Tamil women can do. Absolutely clean, wonderful factory. And they have a slogan which reads like this: Tesla for the West, Ola for the rest. That's quite ambitious, but what it of course points to is the opportunity for India to capture markets in all the emerging nations in the world. They want to see cheap scooters, cheap three-wheelers, cheap four-wheelers. India may be able to compete in those markets, even if India does not have a Toyota. Thirdly, we need to do better with nature. That's also good for the fight against climate change, but it's also very good for Mother Earth. And there's hardly any more inspiring story about that than the old Indians. Look, the old Indians venerated nature. If you go to the Vedas or all the old scripture, it's a lot about nature. It's so much about nature that the old Indians made God half animal,
half human. Hanuman, half monkey, half human. Ganesh, half elephant, half human. How can you really embrace nature more than that? It's about nature in all religions, but I think it's maybe even more in Hinduism than any other global religions like Christianity or Islam or all the others. So inspired by that, we need to do a lot better for Mother Earth. Here there is good news in Tamil Nadu. The government of M.K. Stalin has put up a number of new conservation areas for different species, conserving tigers, elephants, all the iconic species of Tamil Nadu better. There is a wetland program. We have the Green Tamil Nadu program. We have the Tamil Nadu wetlands programs to protect the mangroves along the coast better. So Tamil Nadu has a huge potential, of course, for benefiting economically through tourism, but also to protect it. Tamil Nadu is a big state in size. It's a very, very varied state when it comes to the nature. There's so much to protect, and protecting this is now high on the agenda of the Chief Minister and the government. That's very, very good news. But of course, we need to do this all over the world. We need more national parks, we need more protection, and we need solutions when there are animal-human conflicts. They need to be handled in a good way, and we need to protect the most important ecosystems like the rainforest and the mangroves better. I give you one piece of very good news here also. Last year, Indonesia had zero deforestation. That's really good news, because Indonesia is the second biggest rainforest nation in the world after Brazil. They have huge rainforest, but until recently there was enormous destruction of the rainforest. Now it's completely stopped. Why? Because President Jokowi, the president of Indonesia, has put in place very good policies to protect the rainforest, but also because business of Indonesia has understood that, look, we can create all our jobs and all our profits without destroying the rainforest. To the contrary, people will be much more happy to buy our paper and pulp or our palm oil if there's no destruction of the rainforest in the value chain. In Indonesia, there is a big company called RGE. That's the biggest paper and pulp company in the world, so it matters what they do. They were a part of the problem in the past. Now they have zero deforestation in the value chains, and this company, which is a big company, is even protecting a vast rainforest in the island of Sumatra, and they protect it better than the government can ever do, because they have fire brigades, they have helicopters, they have all the equipment they need to protect the forest, while the government of Indonesia, with very good intentions, they simply don't have the economic resources to do the similar protection. But this combination of people of Indonesia really wanting change, business making change happen on the ground, and government setting the rules, that's very, very powerful, and that has transformed Indonesia. Lastly, I mentioned energy, transport, and better protection of forests and animals. And the last thing is a circular economy. Here is my phone. What do I do when I want a new and better one? Normally, just put it into the shelf somewhere. And maybe when I die, the people will pick up all the phones and do something with them. Maybe you are better individuals than I am, but I think my way of behavior is quite common for many people. When the air conditioning in this school is finished, what do? Maybe throw it to the landfill or somewhere. Same with our computers. This is a complete waste. There are so many resources in this. You won't believe it, but there is more gold in 1 kilo of electronic waste than there is in 1 kilo of a gold ore from, say, South Africa, which is a main gold nation. So recovering the gold from the phones and the computers makes absolutely economic sense, while of course we don't need to extract more and more and more from Mother Nature if we reuse what we already have. So let's move into a circular economy for electronics, for clothing. 99% of all clothes in the world are just thrown away. In some affluent countries, and I have to admit also, I think among affluent people in India, very often you are using a t-shirt 5 times on average. Then you are tired of your red one and you buy a blue one. And it's just thrown away. Complete waste. Why don't we recycle the cotton or the wood which is in our clothes into new products? And plastic is now a huge problem in many parts of India and the world. Enormous plastic pollution at many beaches. Many rivers are very polluted by plastics, and animals are eating plastics and dying from it. That must stop. But that plastic, of course, can be turned into new products. We just simply bring in the plastic and turn it into new plastics. And it can also be a lot more innovative. Here in Tamil Nadu, throughout millenniums, people have been eating from banana leaves. A banana leaf is as good as any plate, and you can just throw it out in nature afterwards, and it will disintegrate in a few weeks' time. Or if you want a straw, well, we don't really need straws, do we? But if you wish to have a straw, why can it be made by bamboo rather than by plastic, or by paper rather than by plastic? There's so much innovation which can happen, creating jobs and prosperity, while at the same time good for Mother Earth. I'm now very much looking forward to our discussion. I hope we can have a dialogue on all these issues. I want to set out a positive image of the future because I believe we humans have been able to solve so many problems in the past. If we were able to increase life expectancy in India from 30 to 70 years in the last 75 years, older Indians are still alive who lived at the time of the liberation of India, and they have lived through this enormous progress. And we can see similar progress in the future, but it depends on us coming together, acting the right way, being inspired by people like Mridula, or young people, elderly people, inspired by them. And it's absolutely adamant that we keep peace in the world, because if we cannot work together, everything will be much more difficult. Don't listen to those voices in India who speak negatively about China or about the United States or any other nation. Of course, I go to China, I give them exactly the same. China, please don't listen to the people who speak negatively about the United States. If I go to the United States, I tell them, don't listen to those people who speak negatively about India. That brings us nowhere. Every nation has a huge contribution to the world. Every nation, and India among the top, has an absolutely vibrant, splendid history, an enormous contribution to the world, and we should celebrate this, but because together we can achieve anything in this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights and reminding us what are collaborative efforts of this generation together to tackle the climatic. I want you to stand back, and I would like to call Saravan Chandrasekharan, General Manager, Sustainability, to felicitate with the gratitude of Rahul. Auspicious day. Along with us, we have Mr. Balakrishnan Velaya, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Coimbatore City, who is unwavering commitment
Yes, Commissioner of Police, Coimbatore City, is here with us to catalyze the change of today, to carry the spirit of this event today. Welcome you, sir, to grace the stage, to share the valuable perspective on the urgent need of the climate action. Welcome you on stage.
Minister of Police. Mr. Eric, all the dignitaries and the audience, good morning everybody. And it's a privilege to be part of this endeavor on Y20 climate action. So we as police, we like the word action because most of the time that's what we do. So the phrase climate action itself kind of tells us what is needed at this moment, the action, not the mere talk. Many of you must be wondering how the police officer is relevant to a climate action plan. I look at it this way. As a police officer, if you have to think about the future, we anticipate two kinds of crimes in the future. The one is in the cyberspace, that is cybercrime, and the AI-based crimes. That is the one crime we anticipate to be predominantly taking our time in the future. The other is the environment-related crimes. Why I say, not because I'm talking on the subject environment. I have a strong argument for that. The environment I am telling because, see, the way we are consuming our resources has got a lot of imbalance in the system. Though there is a balance in the universe at the energy level, at the macro level, but when you think about the sectoral distribution of energy level, then definitely there is an imbalance. We as a human race, we are consuming more than our due. As a result, now we are putting so much pressure on the environment. That is the point. That forms the basis of my argument, based on which I say that I anticipate the environment-based crimes are going to be the major crimes in the future. There are two other things also. Mr. Eric touched the transport. We all, boast of having 2-3 cars in each home, not realizing that how much carbon footprints we are leaving. And in West particularly, say for example, the cities like London, where I have been there for a longer time, the public transport system is so robust. That is what is required more than the individuals having more than one car, right? For cities like Coimbatore, where approximately 1 lakh vehicles are registered every year. So that's going to create a huge pressure on the environment. So for cities like Coimbatore, the public transport system is very important, and the police play a major role in making the road safety so that people feel encouraged to use the public transport system rather than using their individual vehicles. The other point which emphasizes the importance of the individual based action is the drinking water. We are all now, almost everyone, even in the rural households, the drinking water comes in bottles or cans. Nobody goes to the tap and drinks water, which is very common in many countries. So clean drinking water, hygienic drinking water in the public tap, that is another area which is very important for developing cities like Coimbatore. And what is the solution? There are any number of issues. We can talk about individual resources, water, air, everything we can. We all realized how how much important it is to have a clean environment during COVID, and the way we all either witnessed or struggled directly for the oxygen cylinders during COVID. No one would forget that if we don't preserve our environment in future, we may scramble for such a oxygen requirement in the future also, even for individual consumption. So what are the main solution I propose is reduction of consumption at the individual level. We all talk about corporate social responsibility, but we fail to understand the individual social responsibility. Recently, I was in Shillong for my vacation, and I found something very interesting there. Incidentally, the cleanest village in the Asian continent is in Meghalaya, Daki village, and there is a river, Daki river, which is said to be the cleanest river in Asia again. It is not just a coincidence. If you go there, you will realize how carefully the people, local people, have maintained, or maintaining the environment there. I happened to go to a place to see a cave. A lot of caves are there in Meghalaya. So in Cherrapunji area, we went to see a cave, me and my son. And the general, in the first look itself, you will notice that the area is very clean. And it is not that, either corporate or the government is maintaining that. It is the individuals who maintain that. I saw a lady who was selling some handicrafts, voluntarily going and picking up a trash and putting in the bin. Generally, sometimes what we do, if somebody throws a garbage, we, instead of picking it up, we either ask the person who dropped the garbage to pick it up, or we are angry with them. That lady taught me a wonderful lesson. Like, she didn't even bother who was that person who dropped the garbage. She, as a responsible citizen, she went, picked up the garbage and put it in the dustbin. Right? So that kind of individual responsibility, that is what makes a place environmentally safe. So individual responsibility, which is what required at this moment. Again, for the climate action, it should be more decentralized. For example, for city like Coimbatore, we in the police, we have a lot of, we have 2,200 police men in our force, and it means 2,200 families. So most of them are living in police quarters. And we are now coming out a plan scientifically to assess how much oxygen will be required for all the family members in the police family. For each day, how much oxygen each individual consume, and how much total oxygen required for the police families. And to supply that much amount of oxygen, how many trees will be required, how many trees we have now, and how many more trees we will have to plant to meet out the requirement, oxygen requirement of entire police ecosystem. So, by doing so, basically we are decentralizing the care of the environment. Like, for example, in Coimbatore city is a booming city as far as the IT field is concerned, with so many world top engineering colleges in Coimbatore city. Is producing a lot of technical manpower. As a result, the IT industry is booming. More than 3 lakh employees are there in IT industry, and there are 4 privately owned IT parks also. In each IT park, more than 20,000, 30,000 people are working. So those corporates, those companies, those individuals, institutions, organizations, everybody, if they take care of their oxygen requirement by planting extra tree, if they don't have space in their area, they can plant it somewhere else, so that they maintain that oxygen balance. They meet out the demand and supply. They balance the demand and supply. If that kind of decentralization happens in maintaining the environment, I think the whole city will be taken care of. So that is what I propose here for action in the environment, in the climate sphere. Individual-based, society-based, community-based action on, to take care of the environment. And the debates like this, events like this, definitely will bring out a lot of positive energy. As a police officer, we most of the time look at the negative things. Mr. Eric projected a very good positive picture about the future, and by combining both, what will be the possible problems in the future, and what are the opportunities when you combine both and plan a strategy for balancing both. Definitely the definitely solution can be arrived easily, and I propose a decentralized community-based solution for this problem, not the macro level. Of course, macro level framework policies can be devised by the governments, but the action should be at the individual level, and the decentralized action is what I propose. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I'm really, again, I would say it with conviction that this is a much required event, and I'm really privileged to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your invite. I would like to welcome Nishant, the Assistant Vice President, Kumaraguru Institution, to facilitate our Commissioner of Police. Thank you so much, sir. Next, moving on. Climate change is not an abstract concept, but a risky, stark reality that affects us all. Now, we are excited to move on to a panel discussion on technology for climate action. We have assembled a panel of esteemed experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in the field of technology and its intersection with climate action. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed moderator of this panel discussion, Balakumar Thangavelu, India Ed, Outreach, Employee Volunteering, CSR, Global Lead ESG, SDG Integration, UN Partnerships, Supply Chain Reform. Balakumar Thangavelu leads the multi-pronged efforts of Outreach, Cognizant's Employee Volunteering Program for India. He also leads the UN SDG Integration Initiative with Cognizant, Supply Chain and Human Rights Transformation for Cognizant as a part of environmental social governance. This person not only brings the expertise and passion for climate action to this stage, but also carries the pride of being the alumna of esteemed Kumaraguru institution. It's an exceptional privilege to welcome you back to our institution, sir. Please join me on a warm welcome to Balakumar Thangavelu onto the stage. Welcome you, sir.
Good morning all. Good morning all. Am I audible? Thank you so much. So once again, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a privilege to be at Kumaraguru Institutions and my alma mater. And I'd like to invite my co-panelists for this session. Mr. Sundar sir, veteran from the industry of superfans, please come onto the stage, sir. Mr. Kavin, please join me on the stage. And I'd like to invite Hari, please join me on the stage. So thank you so much, Mridula and Eric and our Commissioner sir A beautiful context has been set and a lot of positive things, a lot of action that all of us have to make it happen. I wanted to start this panel discussion with a story and an incident as well. Eric might be well aware and most of you might be aware as well. It's about a story of Dodo, a bird. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. So, how many of you have heard about the bird Dodo? Can you raise the hands? That's good. So, no wonder like all of you are here. So you're all like passionate environmental actionists, so you're here. So for people who do not know, Dodo is like a look-alike of a duck, and its predominance was in the Mauritius Islands. And it used to be there a lot in Mauritius Islands, and Britishers, again, like Eric said, sun never sets in the British Empire. So Mauritius was also invaded by Britishers, and then they started eating Dodo, and eating a lot of Dodo. Maybe it was tasty or the cook was so good to make it very tasty. So they started eating Dodo, and then right now Dodo is not there. It is there only in the museums, of very few museums that's there. And alternatively, there is a different dimension to the story is like aligned to Dodo is that there is a timber tree type called Calvaria, and that Calvaria tree is not growing anywhere in the world. The trees that are there are only like 100+ years, and it gets, flowers and it blossoms, it has fruits, and they are trying to plant, and a lot of researchers have planted this seed at multiple places around the world, and it doesn't grow at all. And after a lot of research, the researchers realized that the fruit has to be consumed by Dodo, and it has to come through its digestive system, and it has to come throughout its poop. That's when it gets the generative capacity. It doesn't generate if it doesn't go into the digestive system of Dodo. So the Dodo doesn't exist anymore. And like Eric said, like we are not, or the commissioner sir said, like we are not responsible consumers there. So we consumed a lot. Dodo is no more. And a tree type, Calvaria tree, is also in the stage of like knowing it's not going to grow anywhere in the world. So that's how the biodiversity and every action that each one of us do has a replica effect, and it's a ripple effect. So with that story being the context on the climate action, once again I thank Saravanan and Kumaraguru institutions and Mridula from Plantera for inviting me and for this esteemed panelists. So with that, right, COP26, COP27, a lot of things have happened. COP26, India has pledged to become net zero in 2070. A lot of actions are there, and technology plays a vital role. Technology has a very, very, very key role towards achieving net zero across the globe. And there are a lot of new inventions that have come in. Artificial intelligence, Internet of Things are playing a key role. And a couple of examples that I would like to cite in terms of technology playing a role is that Google has launched something called Google Flood Hub. So Google's Flood Hub is giving alerts to the regions where in ahead of time, like Eric again pointed out Odisha, when there was a massive cyclone hit, there was 0 lives lost because we had a very good weather monitoring system and alerts were there. Google has come up with that Flood Hub, which is alerting the people and nations to be well aware and then coming out of it. Again, Google Map has launched beyond US, and it has launched for Europe also, that in our Google Maps, we used to choose no toll roads, our fastest route, or fast by time and location. So now Google has launched an eco-friendly map. So whichever road that they can take our cars, which is eco-friendly for us. So it will be energy efficient route is also being introduced by Google. So technology is going to be very key and very vital towards our climate action, and it can make huge difference. And the decades of changes that we saw in the past can be accomplished with intervention of technology in much, much faster pace. So with that, I'd like to invite our panelists to share their point of view. First, I'd like to introduce Sundar sir, a veteran from, founder of Versa Drives. He has done his master's from in the USA, electrical engineering and master's. And I'd not be able to do justice to share his experience and the technology that he has introduced to the world right now. While we were in the guest lounge, he shared like how he didn't want to withhold the technology that he invented, but he wanted to give it to the country, to the nation, towards policy making, and everybody can adopt right now. So with that, I'll hand it over to Sundar sir. Over to you to share your sustainability journey and your technology intervention for 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bala, for the introduction. And thanks, Sarunan, for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with young minds here. I am native of Coimbatore district. I hail from a place called Udumalaipetai. I'm basically from an agricultural family. So I think naturally I took the liking to being in nature, roaming around the forest, climbing the hill. But then anyway, I turned out to be an electrical engineer. So it's a personal passion for me to really keep the things the same way what I enjoyed during my youth. For example, we played a lot in the sun. We drank water from anywhere. We didn't have to really carry water bottles. Okay. A ceiling fan was a luxurious item at home. It will be provided only for the guests. Unlike what you see now, every room in the household, whether you use the room or not, a ceiling fan is there. Okay. Since the time given is 3 minutes, I am straight away jumping to ceiling fan. Though we make a lot of products that are working in the industry, my name comes out when people talk about ceiling fan. I am a person who does not use fans. I like gentle breeze coming on and off rather than air really being forced upon me all the time. So when we developed a new ceiling fan that consumed very little energy compared to what has been really manufactured in millions every year in India, even my wife was surprised. She said, "You don't like fans. How can you really build a fan?" But when it comes to saving energy, yes, even what I don't like to use, I do spend some time and see how I can make it really better. Technology, yes, I would like to use it as a tool. I would never like technology to be our masters. Now there was mention of Google here and all that, but as an engineer, I feel that Google is making human mind redundant. I would like to really find my own ways. Yes, at the time of catastrophe, yes, things like, the technology like Google can really help. Even last week when the train accident happened, I think Google technology was quite useful. What Bala said, Odisha government used the technology very well to take care of 1,000 and odd people getting treatment very quickly. Okay, sorry. So technology, yes, I would like to use, but then before that, I would like to really see how to really reduce my consumption. That is how we really work. Yes, ceiling fans are necessary, but then I would want the buildings to be constructed with good ventilation. So even when the ceiling fans are there, use it at really lower speed, at really what is really required. But at the same time, technology helps this way. I don't say that, okay, we have to save energy, so ceiling fan can be used at the reduced speed. you can be uncomfortable to save energy. But then technology helps the way we develop. We give sufficient air, even more air, at lower energy consumption. Okay? So that's where technology really helps. You don't have to really sacrifice your comfort. You be at your comfort, but at the same time, reduce electricity. So this is where technology really comes. You don't have to really sacrifice. Life is, I believe, life is a celebration. So celebrate, but at the same time, make sure that everyone can celebrate. When I say everyone, I'm not really talking about only human beings. I'm talking about all living beings. That is what we really believe. The ceiling fans are, the ceiling fans what we make are one of the most efficient in the world. But it doesn't stop there. The ceiling fans are manufactured in an eco-friendly way. When you buy our fans, the brand name is Superfan. You won't find a polythene bag or thermocol inside its packing. You just throw the packing away, it will decay and get into the soil, or you can recycle because the printing is minimum. Printing ink contains cadmium, so we make sure that we use it only to the extent required. Again, as police commissioner said, it all comes from the individual. Like, for example, I don't use paper napkins. I always carry a handkerchief with me. Okay? If you really see the virtual consumption, to make a paper napkin, it takes about 70 liters of water. From the time, you have a seed of a tree and then it grows and then you cut, you grind it, make it into a paste, make it into a paper, and then that's transported to all the stores. This is really far simpler. Is it 3 minutes up? Okay. So this is the level we really try to go. Any of the sub-assemblies that are made outside our factory to manufacture Superfan, they all come in a cloth bag. They reach our factory. Typically, when some painted item is there, people put it in a polythene bag and send it to our factory. We say that we give them a cloth bag, so people pack in that, send it to our factory. Then when the next lot comes, these cloth bags will go back to the supplier. Okay. Yes, using LED lights, we save electricity, but then we try to do this. During the day in our factory, lights are not needed. As Eric said, we are blessed with abundant sun and sunlight. So we don't use lights during the day. Then again, where technology is used, as engineers, we like to play with numbers. So measurement. Take a stock of everything really you do, how much you are really consuming in everything you consume. Then see how you can reduce without really giving away any of your comfort or anything you want to achieve. It is not that we have to go back to the life of living in a hut or walking or horse riding to reach a place, but then use the technology so we can reach the place quickly, but then make sure that we don't affect the environment. So I think Bala will give me more opportunity to get into details. I will share more at the time.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir has a lot more to share with all of us in terms of technology and how things have been adopted in his institution going forward. Now, I take the pleasure to introduce Mr. Kavin Kandasamy, MD of Proclaim, CEO of Mangalam Group of Institutions, MD of Y20, and Managing Trustee of Riverside School, and he dons a lot more responsibilities. Today he has come here as an and passionate individual towards environmental conservation, and who is part of the Tamil Nadu Environmental Council towards establishing the net zero goals for the cities. So a person who really wants to make a change in terms of conservation and in all terms of action. It takes a great privilege to invite you, and would like to invite you to share your sustainability journey and your responsibilities that you've done. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. All of us are sleeping already. Good morning, everybody. Come on. Right. Now let's see. Eric spoke with so much enthusiasm. I've seen him for so many years, up close and personal, and I told him I'm going to embarrass him a little. But all of us are referring back to you, so I'm going to continue to do that. First thing about, I have 3 hats that I wear. 1 is education. 2 is skills. I don't feel education and skills are the same. And 3rd is climate. When you look at skills, education, they are important issues and that are required in the sustenance of the world, right? We need to educate our children, but we need to make them relevant to the times we live in through our skills. Because skills is a constant firmware upgrade. You need to keep having it. But the urgent issue is climate. If I don't deal with this today, for my own children, being selfish, then I don't think I'm doing what I need to do for my own children. Let's be selfish about it. If for a moment, the commissioner spoke about individual social responsibility, but if we all can look at collectively and say, if we don't do enough, the beauty of Earth as we know it is not going to be there anymore. Isn't that a cause to wake up to, right? The air out there, about 2.5 years back, with one of our startups, My Protection, I was in this very stage invited by some of the people here, and My Protection represented India at the World Economic Forum in Davos for a beautiful product that we made out of Coimbatore through the engineering prowess of Coimbatore. When the chip supply was not there from China, we showed that we could make pocket UV sanitizers that airlines bought from us. We made sustainable products that were outliving the life of COVID, and we said COVID was a 5-year problem. But we also said safety and climate are correlated. That time, people were falling on the ground with COVID, so they said, listen, Kevin, now is not the time to talk about it. We're talking vaccination. We're talking disposable masks. We're going to talk one-time use PPE suits, but we're not going to talk about sustainability at all. So the quality of the air can also influence the power of a pathogen to spread from here to there. Nobody wanted to listen, right? We could have opened up places using technology, IoT devices that measured certain parameters that help you develop something called a viral transmittability index. And that means no place ever needed to be shut down. And like, my good friend Eric here who said, we've become more aware. Throw us a problem, we will find a way to tackle it, right? And technology is there for us to help us understand that problem better and come up with simpler steps to tackle it. Now, My Protection, of course, does exist. The IoT service that we built has been put on hold, on a hibernation, because we felt we were talking step 10, while step 1 to 9 was not built, right? You need policy. You need a carrot and stick approach that if you do this, I'm willing to reward you with this. That's the carrot. If you don't do this, this is the stick. I'm going to push you in one direction, right? All of those policies have now come together. And I'm thankful to even, Eric and the Tamil Nadu government, the central government. Everybody is meaning what they speak. And I'm thankful to your company. You are the head of Outreach for Volunteering Services and Corporate Social Responsibility. You all are looking at climate justice now, which is good. This is the urgent problem. If you don't deal with the urgent problem, the important ones will never be there later. So ProClim is a company that does 3 things in this space: carbon projects, carbon trading, and climate investments. What if I told you today, everybody here is part of the climate industry? Now that wakes you up, right? And what if I continue to tell you, climate is the biggest industry of the future? Would you now listen more? And what if I told you climate is an $8 trillion opportunity? So it's not a crisis anymore, it's an opportunity. And we are now more prepared than ever to deal with climate. And we should do something about it. Wonderful work with Siridali, madam. I know the work that fabulous work you do. It needs to start off as a movement. Plantera, wonderful. It's an idea. It needs to germinate. And I know, Saravanan, and I follow you on LinkedIn. Every bit of conversation matters, right? And I know Hari's company will talk about what he's doing over there, what he's doing with energy. Every bit of this matters. But we need to make climate profitable. And that can only be done through an understanding of technology in climate, because it helps you understand what I have understood. It helps me communicate it to 100 more people with facts, because facts can never be denied. It's not my opinion anymore, right? It's okay if Donald Trump says climate crisis is not going to happen. We will show him more facts, right? But if I did tell him his economy was going to be better off because of climate opportunity, I don't think he's going to deny it. So the whole thing around pro-climate and what we do over here is to look at climate as an opportunity, get more market forces to come and invest in climate, so climate as a crisis can be used to also pull people out of poverty, empower more people, and create this beautiful opportunity where economic growth and environmental balance is there. So this is what we do at ProClim, and thanks to KCT, thanks to Plantera, and wonderful work with what they're doing with fans, because one of the biggest, we're trying to take one village through one of your counterparts' IT companies' grants. We're trying to take one entire village off the grid. The biggest contributor for energy consumption is fans. Because they tell us that the fans were put during so-and-so's time, and they want to keep those fans. If you change it to more energy efficient fans, you consume lesser power, right? So stuff like that. There are a lot of things that we do to tackle this crisis and opportunity. It transcends from waste to water to energy to air to transport and even literacy. So that's what we do, and thanks for having me.
Fantastic, Kevin. Thank you so much. For any transformation to happen, right, there is always like a 3E that we share, like education, engineering, and enforcement. I'm part of one of the road safety NGO in Coimbatore. It's called WIR, and in that's what we look at. So we have to start educating people, and that's something that you're doing. And engineering, where technology is also involved in bringing in the reformation. And finally, enforcement has to come. And like Kevin rightly said, the world is coming together, and then policies are being made to ensure that enforcement happens. And there are European countries where carbon taxes are coming into place, and sooner or later it's going to come everywhere. So you're going to be taxed based on the carbon emission or carbon footprints that you're going to make. So the policy and enforcement is also coming in. So we'll probably dwell deep more into it in the upcoming questions. So now I'd like to introduce Hari Prasad. Has done his master's in environment and energy management. And when the world is struggling to learn and understand and move towards sustainability, he's the founder of Beyond Sustainability. So would like to understand what Beyond Sustainability does, and then introduce yourself more.
Thank you so much, Bala. And it was a great morning, right, with a great talk from Eric and Mr. Commissioner as well. And thanks for the opportunity to Kumaraguru institutions. And to talk about my sustainability journey, I did my bachelor's in instrumentation engineering. I was born and brought up in Coimbatore, and it was during my second years of my bachelor's, I came across this documentary called Before the Flood, which deeply moved me. And the documentary spoke more about not just talking about climate change, how do you take action? So that's how my initiation towards this sustainability journey started. And I wanted to figure out, okay, what do I do next, right? I'm someone who, I was more like this young boy who's trying to solve world's problem, right? And how do I fit in? And this problem is much bigger than what we're trying to solve. So wanted to get a formal education, went on to pursue my master's studying about climate change. And those couple of years that I spent in the Netherlands really opened up my mind to look at this from a different lens and more from a scientific point of view. And the experience that I had post my master's, happened to work with the European Union on a peatland restoration project. peatlands are like forests, which take 3 to 5 times more carbon than the forest itself, and that later went on to develop carbon credits and all of that. So this experience kind of helped me figure that my ikigai is to become a social entrepreneur, and then COVID happened and moved back home, happened to work in another climate accelerator to help startups taking climate action. And that year that I spent, I would have at least come across 500, 600 startups across the globe, which are working with innovative technologies, and my job was to research on all of them and tell the impact investor what space that fits in, how it works, and kind of give the social impact investor sense of what the impact of his investments will go towards. And I already had the idea for Beyond Sustainability, and I think after a year, I think they sort of pivoted into a carbon credit space, and then the journey for Beyond Sustainability started. And it's been a couple of years, and to put it, given the shortage of time, to put it into a core crux of what we do at Beyond Sustainability, and even the term Beyond Sustainability, is we want to help the world become regenerative in nature. So sustainability is something when you say, okay, let me retain the resources as it is and let me sustain the planet. And we are working towards the vision to say, okay, let's make it restorative, let's make it regenerative and look beyond sustainability. Yes, a lot of the things that we do at an organizational level and how a lot of companies operates is degenerative in nature, which is more of towards exploitation, but let's help them become sustainable. And from there, our vision is to see how can we help companies build regenerative business models in terms of how they procure raw materials, how they perform their operations, and how they can use their funds either through CSR and to restore nature. So that's something that we help with, and we work with organizations where we are right now developing a sustainability tool where we make their entire sustainability journey data-driven and make it science-based. And we work more like a service come product model where we sort of help them make their sustainability journey as their knowledge partners. We say, okay, you take care of your core business. We will help you in your sustainability journey with the scientific background that we come with. And that's been a journey for us so far. So yeah, I think thanks for the shortage of time. I'll keep it here and looking forward to the conversation as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Hari. So back to Sundar sir. There is always a lot of contemplation, right? When you said like you want to be with the nature. So today morning, right, like when I wanted to come for this climate action program, so I'm a fan of wristwatches. So I had multiple watches with me, but I picked one that's a chrono that doesn't have a battery. So there's a contemplation for us to really how do when I talk about climate action, I understand that everybody has a role to play in climate action, but how far we can go and adopt it, right? Can I avoid, I know you have moved into a EV car, if I'm not wrong, right? So how can we people adopt when you say you don't like fan, but you like nature breeze, but you're into a ceiling fan industry? So that contemplation with individuals is always there. So today I've come for a climate action. Do I have to wear a blazer or like a leather shoe? So all these contemplations are still there for individuals. Though we want to take actions and move towards it, you have come a long way. I have heard stories about your transformation, individual transformation, the cars that you use for years together. So would like to hear from you about how that individual transformation can be made.
3 minutes may not be sufficient, Bala, but I'll try to really say it as concise as possible. This contradiction will always be there. If you say our expertise is in motor control. Okay. We will be able to control any motor's speed or torque so that the application will be fulfilled. So when somebody told us about the ceiling fan, that this is what is happening, people are looking at air conditioners, people are looking at geysers, but then ceiling fans, though they consume little energy, but then they work for long hours. Okay. So you develop a technology, and then you really like think that the ceiling fan industry would take up the technology and adapt, and savings will be there for our country, our society, the humankind. But what happens is things have moved into commercial space now. We are judged by how much money we are making, how much assets we are accumulating, and things like that. So you introduce a technology, the industry does not want the market to be disrupted. The industry says, yeah, people are fine with what they have now. They don't need really, like, they don't care about energy conservation. And this new product may cost more. Okay. So how do you really, like, go about it? Then you decide, like, where you want to go. Probably you don't really, like, set your goals that, okay, you are going to capture the entire market, you are going to be the only source that would be really, like, providing this solution. So the route we took, for example, now there is a lot of buzz about the words like investment, startups, and all that. In my belief, it is just that, this word was not coined. Take this group, we are here because of Mr. Nachimuthu Kounder. Okay. Our family knew him quite well. So we knew the origin. So for him, when he actually started with a bus, starting Annamalai bus transport, it was a startup. It has taken really, like, time to grow to this level. Okay. So we understood that it's going to really, like, take time. So we worked on the market transformation. So we worked closely with the government. We did not really, like, guard any secret. We told the government, this is what it is. It is possible. This is a reliable technology. This can work. In India, the companies can manufacture this. The impact will be so much. So whenever the contradiction comes, or when you contemplate what to decide, this is what you really, like, think, okay? How can the future generation benefit? So that is how you really, like, look at. Because I strongly believe in this, many times we all really, like, hear about this and we believe that, we are going to save nature, which is incorrect. The nature can take care of itself. We, like all living beings, for all living beings, their goal is to sustain their breed, procreate. We should be there in future. That's what even either a bacteria or a mammoth, that's what they really, like, think. We are slowly really, like, losing that. We really, like, we human beings are really, like, forgetting that. Part of it is really like technology. We start enjoying technology so much, we become slaves to the technology. So everything what we do is determined by the technology, not really like what we want to do. Okay. So when you get into these kind of thinking, when you contemplate what watch to wear, you really, like, decide what to do. Yes, I do have a EV now. I couldn't really, like, give the whole number to Saravanan because I just acquired a month ago. I have not remembered the number yet. Okay. I know that it is going to only save local pollution. Until I have a solar panel which would supply that 7 kilowatt energy to charge the EV, I know it is not green. I'm just pushing the pollution from really like polluting the Coimbatore roads, I'm pushing it to the generating place. Okay. So once you are aware, the knowledge is there, you know, what Kavin or Hari are doing, you know, educating people, making people understand things. Okay. Once they understand, they weigh the thing. Okay, let me first really like clear the Coimbatore roads, then I will also develop technology for really like saving, you know, how to really like have energy. So one solution I already have, you know, I will put a solar panel to charge my vehicle, then I become better. But still there are a lot of other areas, you know, all these kids should really like work. It is not only that fuel consumption which is really like affecting the sustainability. The tires, you know, the wearing of tires, and again, just one individual using a vehicle instead of using a public transport. Yes, there are a lot of questions to be really like answered. We need to really like work on that. That's really like, you know, the challenge ahead of us. Current technologies address a few problems. Like for example, when people were building dams, they thought that's really like solving a problem. But now we see that the dams are really a big liability for us. We don't know really like what to do with them. Okay. So contemplations will always be there. Once you become knowledgeable, then you can really like make better decisions.
Thank you, sir. I think that's where the first T of education comes. We have to keep educating people, and then they followed up the next steps. I'll probably go next question to Hari. Hari, with having a lot of students in this room and a lot of them have probably come here to learn, would you be able to share some insights about carbon accounting as such? The concept of like scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, what is it all about? A lot of us don't get like, why should an organization consider about scope 3 at all? So why is it important? Why carbon accounting as such, the concept is important? If you can share some, you know, at a high level, if you can share for the next few minutes, it'll be helpful.
Thanks, Bala sir. Thanks for the question. And it's into the space that we're operating, it's a bit more technical. I don't want to get too detailed into it, but we'll give quite an overview, right? So we talk about climate change, climate action, and there's been talks about air pollution, circular economy, and all of these. So all of these are sustainability issues, but each issue's cause is very different. So all we've talked about when you say there's a heat wave, or when you say there's a flood, or there's a intense rainfall happens, right? All of those are effects. Effects of climate change is what we're talking about. And if you really want to solve for the climate change issue, you will have to solve for the cause and not the effect. The effect is more like when you say you have fever and you eat a medicine or a tablet for it, it only solves for the effect of it and not the sole reason why you get fever, right? So similar to when we had COVID, a lot of people eat tablets. It only brought your temperature down, but the virus that was inside you was still living, and you still had the fever for a longer period of time, right? Similarly, the carbon emissions are the cause for climate change. The amount of carbon that we put into the atmosphere, and this carbon doesn't only mean carbon as a gas. There's something called as greenhouse gases, which is methane, nitrous dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and all that. And this carbon is taken as a common scale because carbon is the majority of it, and if for say 1 methane is equivalent to 25 molecules of carbon, and similarly 1 molecule of nitrous dioxide is equivalent to 300 molecules of carbon. So what happens is you convert all of these greenhouse gases into carbon and keep carbon as a common measurement scale, and it's usually called as what you call as carbon footprint is called as equivalent carbon emission. So when you say there's 1 kilogram of carbon footprint, it means 1 kilogram of all of this greenhouse gases that was calculated as part of it, right? And when you talk about, okay, why should we reduce carbon emissions? Over years, we have emitted close to 1.5 trillion tons of carbon emissions into the atmosphere, which has already caused Earth's average temperature to increase by 1.1 degrees Celsius. It's already increased. And just one random question, I see a lot of people dozing off a bit, so just one question, someone in the audience, what do you think is Earth's average temperature? Just someone, no right, wrong, right, all of us are here to learn. What do you think is Earth's average temperature? 40 degrees Celsius. 40 degrees, what do you mean as Earth's average, right? No, sir, because here in Coimbatore, it's around 32 is what I'd say is average. So what do you think is Earth's average? In Coimbatore, it might be 30. In Netherlands, it might be 10 degrees, right? In Arctic, it's much less. So what do you think? Sir? No, 25 is a little higher. Sir? 50? 15, okay. 15 degrees, it's probably Earth's average temperature, right? And because of human-induced activities from 1980s or to 1960s, the industrialization that has happened, Earth's average temperature is increased by another 1.1 degrees Celsius. So it's not 15 right now, it's around 16 point something or whatever, right? And those carbon emissions are influencing the climate, and when you mean 1 degree as an average, it means 4 degrees for Coimbatore. So Coimbatore's average temperatures are already increased by close to 2.5 to 3 degrees from 1990s, because of which is why we are seeing inconsistent rainfall, the heat waves and all of that, right? And that affects other aspects of our life to business and all of that. So when you talk about taking action for climate change, then carbon emissions are the core reason, and every organization, every activity that we do has a carbon footprint. Say for example, you watch Netflix for an hour, you're not doing anything, like literally you're just turning on your TV, it's connected through internet, you're watching Netflix. Watching Netflix for an hour is equivalent to turning on a light bulb, a LED light bulb for one entire day, because all of that comes through internet and all of that, and that's the carbon footprint of that activity, right? And if you look at one entire organization or a company, there are multiple processes, right? Take a manufacturing company, for example. They procure a raw material, it comes through transport to their plant, and then they use energy to manufacture the raw material, and then the raw material gets shipped to the end consumer, and then we consume the raw material, the end product, and then we dispose the end product. So when you talk about carbon accounting, it starts from the raw material procurement till the waste disposal. What is the amount of carbon emission that has happened for that company is what you call as the carbon emission for the organization. And when you talk about, okay, let's reduce the company's carbon emission, then Scope 1 and Scope 2 are called as the direct emissions. So any direct fuel burning that they do comes under Scope 1, and whatever the electricity consumption comes under the Scope 2. And to give a but with more details, Scope 1 has 4 different categories. Any direct fuel that they burn, for example, it could be liquid diesel oil that they burn in their manufacturing, or any company-owned vehicles, they might be using petrol and all of the other fuels, right? So all of those come under, but these have to be company-owned. And third category is usually fugitive emissions, the refrigerants, ACs. And the fourth category is something called as process emissions or venting emissions. If you've seen a lot of these oil and gas plants, especially, you would see a long tower which is burning fire, right? It's basically some sort of a venting gas that goes out of it. It could be sulfur dioxide or nitrous dioxide or whatever, that they put it directly into the atmosphere, and those are called as venting emissions. So you calculate for each of this activity how much carbon is being emitted, and then you quantify and say, okay, this is the entire company's carbon emission. Then you think about emission reduction strategy. And Scope 1 and Scope 2 is the direct emissions, and Scope 3 covers 15 different categories. Say they're procuring a raw material, say the company is buying 1 kilogram of plastic. It has 7 kilograms of carbon footprint, right? So then that is one separate category. And there's another category for transporting the goods. Then there's another category for the waste that is being disposed. Then there's another category for employee commuting to their office work. There's another category for business travel. So there are 15 different categories, and usually it is the companies take care of the Scope 1 and Scope 2 because they're direct emissions. And Scope 3 is very difficult to quantify because you rely on multiple other of your suppliers and all of that. So that's one space that a lot of companies are now figuring how to do it. and then this is your entire company's carbon emission. Then you go into an emission reduction strategy and say, okay, now I know with data, with numbers, these are my emissions. Okay, how do I reduce these emissions becomes your emission reduction strategy. Then you decide on what projects can I do, and then you can say, okay, let me procure a superfan from Versa drives, because that helps me reduce my energy consumption, which indirectly helps me reduce my carbon emissions as well. And then you kind of look for such solutions, deploy in your operations, and usually companies have a long-term plan. It's not like a switch you can turn on and say, okay, I'm climate neutral tomorrow. It's not a website that you're developing, right? It's been your company's operations over a period of time, over a period of years. So companies, usually large manufacturing companies, fix a 10-year or a 20-year goal and say, by this year I will become net zero. Net zero is basically when you say all the carbon emissions that I've put out, I've either reduced through my other initiatives or I've offset it through tree planting or such projects. And by 2050, scientifically, all organizations, all processes that we do have to be climate neutral if you want to become keep the temperature increasing, the average temperature that I told to be 1.1 degrees. If you want that to be below 2 degrees, then by 2050, all operations that we do have to be climate neutral. And what would happen if I don't do it, right? Again, I don't want to give a doomsday scenario or all that, but what would happen is right now you might probably be facing one climate effect at a time. But if we don't do it by 2040, 2050, we might simultaneously be facing 4 climate impacts. So what does it mean? So you might have drought this week, and next week you might have flood, and the week after you're just facing a severe heat wave. So that's a scenario that's going to happen, and that I say through data and science. And how do we change that, or how do we stop that from doing? I think that's why we're all here for. So would want to leave it to Bala sir. Sorry if I give more time, but yeah. So
thank you so much, Hari. That was really important. That was really important. Thank you so much for making it a little detailed, right? Like a lot of us talk about, like, when our Prime Minister announced that like India is going to be net zero in 2070. A lot of us in the room might not even understand what does that mean. So now Hari has given that complete explanation. Like, we are going to account our carbon emissions under like 3 categories, and we're going to look at ways to reduce that carbon. It could be multiple ways. It could be like energy efficiency, or like avoiding moving into renewable energy sources, and multiple process and strategy can be adopted to make sure we achieve that net zero goal. And thank you so much. It was very, very informative to all of us. Now, moving on to Kavin. Kavin, when you were doing your first segment, right, you said, like, I see this as an opportunity. So we have like hundreds of students in this room, and they come from various colleges, various institutions, and various backgrounds, discipline also, BSc, BCom, engineering, and all of them. So can you take a few minutes to highlight what is this opportunity? How can they capitalize this opportunity? How everybody can adopt technology or leverage technology to capitalize this opportunity? I know you're talking about it's a 200 million business opportunity that's put in forth. So I'd like to hear from you, Kavin.
Now, the first thing I'd like to say about this as an opportunity is like any problem. So let's say if somebody says, I'm hungry, you want to sell them food. It is an opportunity. It's a problem. It's an opportunity. Somebody wants fuel. If it's, pumped out of an oil, I don't know, there's an oil, field over there, and you want to transport it here, that's an opportunity. Like this, we've created a problem by our lifestyle, our choices, our perspective that the world is going to have a long shelf life. We've created a problem. Now, if somebody doesn't solve that problem, even we would cease to exist, like what, Hari just mentioned. So, isn't a problem an opportunity to be solved? It's the mindset, right? If I don't solve it today, somebody else has to solve it. But if nobody wants to solve it, then that is an even bigger problem. So, Climate is a problem. It is a crisis, hence an opportunity. Simple as that. Now, how can you be a part of that opportunity? I'll take us in this room. Within us, I'll give you about 10 different job roles. How many of you are from engineering? Please raise your hands. I know. Okay, anybody from the arts discipline? Wonderful, there's only one. No, there's more. Good, thanks. Please raise your hands. All right, if you're raising for both, I'm so sorry. You're still confused. Put it out. Now, anybody from healthcare? We should have invited somebody. Good, for the sake of it, I'm going to raise my hands. I'm not from healthcare. But anybody else from environment? That's very direct. Okay? Anybody else from culture? Right. I'm giving you different names, but all of these are related. Anybody from education? All the professors, please raise your hands if y'all are here. Good. So at least we know who the professors are. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let me just put it this way. To educate somebody about, climate as it is, it doesn't mean if I have the knowledge, I can transcend it into the classroom. I need educationists out there to package it in the right sizes, flow it in the right ways. I know there's one person from my company as well here, Y20. We work on green skills, right? We spoke about windmills in Tamil Nadu. There are 9 gigawatts. All these 9 gigawatts were set up between 1990s to 2010, 2012, okay? These are all Class A wind sites, which means there needs to be a certain speed of wind for the rotor to go one full swing, and based on that, you're going to get a certain amount of energy, right? Back then, 200 kV was very good for one Class A wind site because that was the best windmill out there. Today, it's 5 megawatts. So that same piece of wind site, which the wind potential might have changed, again, adversity of climate change, but then it hasn't changed more drastically than it was in the past. That opportunity loss for me is 200 kilowatts versus 4 to 5 megawatts. Now that is called repowering, right? You want to take out the old windmill and put a new windmill. For this you need a lot of money. So if there are finance graduates out there, there is smart financing that we're looking at, and we want people to work on this. I'm looking at ways where I can put carbon projects on the London Stock Exchange. Your climate revenue for planting a tree, can it be sold as a dividend? That's there, right? The number of people necessary to power these windmills don't exist in Tamil Nadu right now. For an opportunity that Tamil Nadu has already matured. I know sir will say I'm not getting good quality people coming into the workforce. It could be true. That is an opportunity. Energy efficiency increase is an opportunity. Still, the number of LED bulbs that are not installed in Tamil Nadu is appalling. There are companies willing to pay for it so that you can put it out there and they can claim carbon credits. You don't even need the money, right? I mean, you don't even have to invest the money in that. Somebody else will do it for you, right? So, engineering graduates, significant opportunity. Environment, let me tell you this. There is a lot of conversation going on about how carbon credits work, agreement, disagreement, but let's face it. If somebody is producing more emission and they can't reduce their own emissions in their business, I have to pay you to reduce that emission for me, and that is the process of carbon credit. If you can prove you have reduced emissions by 1 ton, you get 1 credit, right? And if you can prove it, you can register it, I will pay you for it. It's as simple as it is. It is the power of the carbon markets, right? So there needs to be a better understanding of all of this. Now, there are so many opportunities here. I'm going to wrap up very quickly. Culture is very important because we want to talk about, behavioral dynamics. There's so much over there. In education, there's so much over there. In technology goes without saying. Engineering goes without saying. Electric vehicles, come on. So many opportunities in the climate space. It starts from morning. Water management is a huge industry, right? It is a part of our daily lives. So many things out there that are correlated to climate. And I can only tell you this, climate is not an option, it's a mandate. Every discipline here is a climate industry. Whether you want to specialize on it or not is a different story. But every bit of skill set you have here can be connected back to climate. It's as simple as that. Thanks.
Thank you, Kavin. Thank you, Kavin. I think while the rest of the sectors are vertical, climate is an horizontal. So it has a role in every segment, and everybody has a role to play in making a difference. So in the interest of time, I think we'll have to move on to the next panel, and I'll have to wrap it. We'll open it for questions. If you have any questions to the panelists here, any questions that you have? Yes. Probably circulate one mic.
Yeah, question is to Mr. Hari. We are talking about the impact we are creating on, how we are polluting the environment. My question is very simple. Can we measure in any way that how much are we polluting every day? I'm doing a particular action, right? How much that will impact the carbon footprint? Is there any way like I can measure it now itself? You're talking about long term. If we do all this, it will increase by so much, right? So people will get an awareness. Like for instance, if we even have a smart bin, right? How many napkins are we putting it in? So based on that, how much carbon emission is going to shift? So probably we can look at it individual wise or place wise or even a city wise, so we can take a collective action, or somebody is burning a particular fuel, right? So is it a level 3 breach or level 2 breach, so that people take it more seriously, and maybe some action can be taken or some tax can be levied or something like that. Okay, so that's my question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the question. I hope I'm audible, right? Okay, is it any better now? Yeah, cool. So I think question is very simple, straightforward, but I don't think the answer is simple and straightforward, right? Because there are multiple things that we do. It's very difficult. It is possible to quantify everything. I'm for sure very, very clear that it's possible to quantify everything. But do you have one place or one solution that is already doing it? I don't think, yes. There are few apps that do this. I don't want to promote anyone or anything for this being a public forum, but there are multiple apps that you can already find on Google Play. So there are Indian-based company. There's a company in Pune, a very young lady who's come from a media background, and she's been very thought leader in the space. How does an individual do the exact same thing that you asked for, right? And these kind of apps give you a quantified number, quantified impact to say, okay, I've not chosen to eat chicken for lunch right now. What is the impact of it? I've chosen to not take my car today. What is the impact of it? Or say, I've chosen to rent my washing machine or one of the electronic equipments instead of buying a new one. What is the impact of it? So there are apps that can do this, and there are people who are developing solutions to incentivize these actions as well, and see how we can do that. So that is something that I can say at the Indian context, at a very local Indian context, it is evolving, but you can already find similar solutions like this in Canada, in Europe, where there are apps that gives you a quantified number and all that. And I think Plantera was also kind of telling something to incentivize such actions. So I think that's already a solution that we have within this room, right? And that if you ask me, okay, all of that is on a secondary level. Primarily, what can I do, right? Right now, can you tell me few impacts? I would say the biggest change would be to switch to a vegan diet. I won't say completely vegetarian or vegan, but at least reduce your meat consumption, because meat industry is something. I don't mean eating meat, I mean it meat industry. Because it as a process, as an industry, has enormous amount of impacts on the planet. So the easiest shift that you can say is, I won't say completely become, it's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. So when I bring it up, I get a lot of reactions that are very different. So how would I put it in a very delicate manner is, see if you can reduce it. If you're eating meat 2 times a day, see if you can do it 1 time a day. That's going to have a huge impact in terms of reducing the carbon footprint, the water footprint and all that. That's 1. And 2, rightly like Eric pointed out, see if you can have lesser electricity consumption. That's the next big impact area. And 3 is transport. And we're already, as a developing city in Coimbatore, every taxi driver that I get into tells the same thing. There are more cars on road. Every taxi driver. I took 2 taxis yesterday, both of them told the same thing. right? And I constantly keep hearing this, and why should we put another car on the road? And I for sure know that I could, to most places that I go to hang out with my friends or for a business meeting or for a work, I for sure know I have to carpool. What I have to reduce is my ego. I should just ask them or put them a message and say, can you pick me up? Or I could probably come through a public transport to a certain location, and can you pick me up from there? That would have a huge impact in terms of reducing your carbon footprint, right? And we come from a society or a culture where sustainability is very integrated to our lifestyle itself. So we don't have to teach people these things. We don't usually throw away clothes, unused clothes. We use it for repurposing it to something else, right? And I think there are people that promote this circular solutions at the individual level, and there are multiple people that do that. So I've said these three things. One is changing your diet a bit. Two is your transportation, and three, trying to see how can you reuse as much as things without putting them to the bin. So I hope I answered your question. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I can add what Hari was telling, right? At Cognizant, we have published our net zero goal. Like 2030, we will reduce our carbon emissions by 50%, and 2040 we will reduce it by 90%. That's our carbon approach goal. So towards that, like we have 370,000 employees across the globe, and in Coimbatore alone we have 17,000 employees. So we wanted to the actions to be done by the employees also, not just like we propagating, right, and not just changing the infrastructure alone. So we partnering with United Nations. There is an Act Now campaign by United Nations, and there is an app called A World. A World is an United Nations Act Now campaign, and that app you can install, and you can just say that like today I used shower instead of a bucket of water. All that, like Hari said, right? It will tell you like what is the carbon footprints that you have reduced today. So that's an app that it's by the United Nations A World Act Now campaign. You can just give it a shot. I know Hari didn't want to promote any individual, but this was an United Nations campaign, so that's why I thought I took the liberty to add to it. So that's something that you can try it out. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm just acknowledging all the aspects that we have talked about till now, renewable, turning to vegan, etc. When I try to search for what absorbs carbon from the atmosphere and puts it back to its place, I get mostly the answers on trees or plantation. When we have such an efficient natural mechanism to solve the problem, I do acknowledge that there are many work that are happening here, but on most forums, maybe because it hasn't turned out to be a business yet, we don't see the proportionate coverage of that. So the solution is that it still is just seen as an ecological problem. What should we do to make it as a business?
I like when people say business, they look at me, sure. No, first thing, I think more companies have started realizing it is not just a ecological problem anymore. It's part of the whole supply chain mechanism. And Hari, I'm sorry, I'm going to add something to what you said. You should take a look at Beyond Sustainability app also on the forum he did. I know he's being very modest. His platform is also very good, and he's presented it to our company. And I think you all should take a look at it for sure. Now, coming down to, is there, a business opportunity in the whole climate space? That's exactly what I'm propagating, saying, yes, climate is a mainstream opportunity now more than ever. And if I could just say, even the wonderful, initiatives of Siraduli here, if I could say, if it can be monetized to sustain the activity through carbon markets, why not look at it? Right? There are so many companies across the world that call themselves nature-based solution companies. Their only job is to plant trees and regain as much as degraded land. So, Professor, with all due respect, climate is a major business opportunity, and I think more of your students should be looking at it. And I'd love to even with Saravanan's permission, I'm going to say I'd love to even throw an internship for anybody who wants to come out of here with all the wonderful work we are trying to do. I think it's going to be things. So yes, it is happening and people are talking about it. And for the first time, can I give you this report? For the first time, the world has invested as much money in climate as much as fossil fuels. And climate turned profitable this year. And $1 trillion went into it. So it's amazing, right? So this is just to give you an understanding that it is there. Thanks.
Good morning. I really enjoy the panel, and Mr. Kavin, this question is for you. I really enjoyed your view of looking at climate as an opportunity, as a business opportunity specifically, and that financial incentive could be a great motivator to move forward and be better. One question I had was that when you discussed the question of carbon markets and where one company can pollute and it can pay someone else to offset these losses, I believe it's a great solution, of course, but in the long run, when you decentralize this action of making up for your pollution, do you think this could be a permanent solution? And how do you think we should work upon it, and what do you think is the future for this, is my question. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So there is a word called greenwashing, right? Greenwashing means I will continue to pollute and I would pay you to offset my pollution, okay? The idea, there are three things in the climate space, and please do remember this. There's mitigation, there's adaptation, and then there is resilience, okay? Mitigation activities are short-term solutions that ensure that our transformation process can continue to happen. Because today, you can't ask, all of this to become green tomorrow. It doesn't work. Mitigation enables a transformation process, and there is a cost to it, okay, when transformation happens. When the transformation is a little more permanent is the adaptation. And resilience is when it's become a part of life. Let me put it that way, right? So if you look at the mitigation process is where the financial markets for this are, because somebody needs to enable the other person to be able to do it. If not, even he or she is not going to do it. Then how would you get the benefit of that decarbonization, right? So it is not a permanent solution. The world has to move more towards adaptation and resilience. But fortunately, there are some projects that cross-cut mitigation, which means people are willing to pay. It becomes a part of adaptation, which means it is a little more permanent than ever, and resilient because it integrates so well into the community. It's a permanent solution. And one of them is mangroves, right? Mangroves protect you. See, tsunami is not a climate disaster. Tsunami is tectonic shift in earth plates and everything. Most areas that had mangroves were least affected by tsunamis. The quality of the carbon credit coming out of mangroves are north of $30 per ton. Okay? So which means if you get about 150 credits per acre, if it, there's a calculation that goes from 150 to 250 based on the density of the mangroves. I don't want to talk science, but the intent is it pays so well, right? The community living there is going to benefit from it. There is so much of ecological benefits. Biodiversity increases there. It's cross-cutting. Okay? So greenwashing is not a solution. Transformation needs to happen. But adaptation and resilience are where we should go into. I know there are two other people who raised hands. Since you guys have been passionate, we can answer in 30 seconds if you're willing to take that. Saronan, with your permission, of course. Thanks.
Good morning, dignitaries and Eric sir. It's my pleasure to meet you all. My question is it's more important to bring up inventions and technology to handle the climate action. But it's furthermore important to realize that energy saved is actually energy generated. But not most of the people are aware about that. So I got a kind of feeling like I actually get hatred to these consumers. As a person like Sundar sir, if I'm putting my all energy in generating a new technology which would reduce the energy usage, even if when it goes to the consumer and he still misuses it, like he is not in a room, the basic thing could be like just switching off the fans and putting up the trash to the bins. But even those simple things seem to be like super impossible thing for a consumer point of view. So when I work on this and come up with new ideas and technologies, won't it be a justification for them to even more pollute or waste the energy?
Sundar, sir, you want to ask?
This is where the individual responsibility really comes. Okay, it is like I don't know. Nowadays, you see so many advertisements. Okay, you play this game. Okay, all celebrities really endorse it, and then they also point their finger to this. There is a risk playing this in losing money. Okay. So the individual role really comes in. Okay. Of course, now we can create an app and then say that, okay, this app should be installed in all the cell phones so that when somebody plays these games, it warns them that, okay, it only they should play only so much. After that, something will be blocked and they cannot really play the game. Okay. Finally, we all have to realize that as individuals, we have to be responsible. This is more a mind over the matter. Okay? That is how we have to be. If we become really that's the reason why I said that we should use technology as a tool. We cannot become dependent on it. That is where I'm saying that, all you people should really try to retain your human qualities and abilities. It is not that we always had Google Maps to really take us to some place. People did find places, went all over the world, okay, created communities and everything, okay. But yes, technology is extremely good. The population could grow to this level because of the technology, okay. But use it in the right manner. So we need to have the right attitude and aptitude towards life itself. Okay. End of the day, it's not really app. You need to sleep. Yes, there could be some apps saying that we'll make you sleep. But that's not a solution as a human race, for us to really sustain.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll, in the interest of time and the other panelists.
Please, take the mic, madam. Thanks.
Coming from an agricultural family, that too from Udumalpet, I have seen installation of windmills right from the stretch of Pollachi to Udumalpet. Most of the lands, hundreds and acres of lands have become barren. The agriculture cannot be carried on there. The main cultivation was black gram and coriander because of the soil, the black soil. That has gone. So like this, urbanization and industrialization is shrinking the usage of agriculture. So as a business, and you say that the climate can be converted into profit, please come out with suggestions and solutions to come retrieve the agricultural lands and help the farmers to help the society.
Very good. Now, give her a big round of applause. So, this is just a beautiful thing that she mentioned. And this is very important, and this has now been brought into climate. Madam, when they did the windmills in the past, it was not based on community impact. Community impact was not considered at all. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say at all. It was part of the plan, but never got transcended, right? Today, every climate project looks at fundamentally climate, community integration, because if not, climate won't survive, right? So there is proper community integration, and community integration happens only by understanding the nature of the land, where the opportunity is there for us to harness the power of climate. So now all these renewable energy projects have been mandated, but we'll have to make sure that they're executed. that they respect the opportunities, which is agriculture. They're able to produce more jobs for people in that space as well, if at all there is a shrinkage, but also promote by reinvesting a portion of the profits back into the nature of the land. So let's hope that this gets really cemented. And I can tell you, even the carbon markets only pay better quality, better price for credits if the community development has happened because of the climate opportunity. So the plan is in place, and thanks to you for bringing it up. Let's make sure it's enforced. And from my side, when I look at the climate space, we are making sure 30 to 40% of the revenue goes back to the community. So let's make it work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to...
Thank you. In the interest of time, we are going to be here for some more time. We can take the questions offline as well. For the interest of the, other, I know all of them are veterans and a lot of knowledge can be shared, but I have to be considerate for the other panel also. So I really wanted to end this panel discussion with an action. So I have an action for all of us to do in this hall. So I'm going to read out an article, a message from McAfee. Okay, every email, whether sent or in storage, uses electrical energy. I hope all of us agree, right? McAfee has stated that 62 trillion spam emails are sent throughout the globe. If we send over 65 emails, it consumes the same energy as driving a mile in our car. A typical email is about 75 KB in size. And for instance, if there are 23 billion email subscribers globally, and if everyone deletes 10 unwanted emails, it's going to be 17,25,000 GB of data. And the energy required to store 1 GB of data is around 32 kilowatts. As a result, if you all delete 10 emails, it's going to save 52.2 million kilowatts of energy. So as an action, can you all pick up our mobile phones, go to your Gmail, go to the spam, delete the spam, the emails that are in the spam. There is a special folder called social, which we don't go and look at all. Hundreds of emails are there in social. Go there, select all, delete, and we are starting our actions today, right now from this room. So with that note, I thank you, all of you, all panelists, great knowledge, great wisdom, all of you shared, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to come back to you and then reach out to you for more knowledge and wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you
again
so
for
much.
the opportunity.
And I request the dignitaries to stand back for the felicitation. I would like to call the student coordinators Shakti and Durga to felicitate Sundar Muruganandam, MT Vice Versa, Drives Private Limited. Next, I would like to call Karthikeyan and Santosh Kumar to felicitate Kavin Kumar Kandasamy, CEO, Procline. To call Jumaida and Asha to felicitate Balakrishna Tangavelu for and Arish and Varalakshmi to felicitate Ari Prasad, founder Beyond Sustainability Network. Thank you so much to the speakers and moderator. Education empowers minds, engineering unlocks innovation, and enforcement ensures accountability. Together, they form the pillars of effective climate action, guiding us towards a sustainable future. Moving on to the next panel, climatic literacy and climate action. We have a passionate for nature, leading campus a sustainability program for Kumaraguru institutions as general manager. Also, is working as an administrative officer at Kumaraguru Institute of Agriculture. He is also a founder and naturalist at Canopy Nature Academy, who is into the nature education for children. is also the managing trustee of Y20 Trustee. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Saravana Chandrasekharan onto the stage. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So, I just wanted to invite my co-panelists. So, let me invite Mr. Bharatidasan, co-founder Arulagam, and Mr. C.R. Jayaprakash, Head of Communications Department from PSG College of Arts and Science, and Mrs. Sujini Balu, ma'am, convener of Awareness Vertical at Sirutuli. Yeah. So we had a fantastic, panel just some time back, and I think a lot of learning and reflections for all of us in terms of climate change and in terms of technologies that can help in climate action. And now in this panel, we have very, very interesting and exciting people from diverse backgrounds. So I'll just quickly introduce them on the work that they do, and then go ahead into the panel discussion specifically. So we have Mr. Bharatidasan here, who is a grassroots conservationist working, with people, working with communities, working with a lot of young people on creating climate awareness through which a climate action happens. And he is someone who is very deep, grounded, passionate, and has been instrumental in conserving the vultures in southern India, right? So his actions has really made a fantastic impact in conserving the vultures, which are one of the most important, species, in Earth. And I welcome him to be a panelist here. And we have Mr. C.R. Jayaprakash, who is Head of Communications at PSG Arts and Science, but a farmer, as a proud farmer as always, and he has also, been a nature lover for a very long time. He has, right from when I was studying in school, I've been looking up to him to learn a lot from him. So he has been connecting with young people through his profession to inspire them about nature in different ways and making impact on climate action specifically. And I welcome Mr. C.R. Jayaprakash again to be the panelist here. And we have Mrs. Sujini Balu, a great mentor, somebody who has been very passionately involved in educating and creating awareness among children and young people through Sirutuli. Sirutuli is a 20-year-old organization, right? So she has been anchoring the awareness and education for more than a decade, more than 2 decades now, right? So which has started a lot of, where we have started seeing a lot of transformations happen, in the young minds, be it a children, be it a college student or whatever. So again, I would like to welcome Mrs. Sujini Balu here for this panel. And to start with, all of us talked about climate action, a lot of discussions about agriculture, a lot of discussions about, how we can save energy, be individually responsible. So one thought I would like to carry from the previous discussion is, right, so I've been a person, and most of us here, right, so I've been traveling into forests, right, so I've been connecting with a lot of communities who are still having the best way of managing their life with minimal impact. For instance, you just walk into a a village, an agriculture village in the remotest part of Erode district, right? So I can refer one instance in Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. I've always been to a village called Malliamman Durgam, which is a village which is on the hillock. They are not a tribal community, but an agrarian community. A group of 400 farmers live together and do agriculture in a piece of 500-acre land in the middle of the jungle, right? So, and they still live without electricity, right? So, and they have continued to survive 4, 5, 6, 7 decades of advancement in technology in other parts of the world, but they have still continued to survive, and they are still surviving. And every time I go there, I have a lot of learning that I get from those communities. So all that I wanted to request our the panelists in the earlier discussion was how these such communities who are actually already being a role model and already showcasing how a low carbon life can be managed in because of it could be because of need, it could be because of a challenge of coming out of the protected area, but are there initiatives, should young people look at getting inspired from such communities living deep into the with low impact and get innovations and technologies spin up from there? So can we look at that? So because every time we have started, all of us talked about how do we get back to our old times? How do we, live without a fan, right? So can we enjoy the breeze, or can we, reduce our impact on travel? But, still there are a lot of communities living with that, right? So can we inspire? So just leaving that as a thought for all of us to think about. I have, my first question is to Mr. C.R. Jayaprakash. Okay, so he has been a professor and also a farmer, has been trying to promote climate education in terms of nature education, or as a farmer in terms of educating people about sustainable agriculture production and consumption. So he has been involved largely in that space. So can you just give us an understanding on how important is it for a consumer from a in terms of sustainable food production space to understand what it takes for them to realize that the choice of sustainable food consumption relates to climate action? So what is the challenge that you see, and how do you think this can be done?
Good noon to all of you. As they told, I'll tell you the basic difference between the two panels. The previous panel, they were all very good technologists. They could re-engineer, they could help us to do better networking. But we three of us, we stay in the field. Like Sirtuli has done a good job. One thing which you will remember if I say that is, Coimbatore, every village has plenty of water bodies. They really rediscovered them. They told one point, these were created 700 years back. And it was used 650 years properly. Last 50 years we forgot about that. We spoiled everything. Now we are recreating. So that is a big job. Same is the case with farming. All these years we are doing well. But suddenly something went wrong. And why farming? What is the use of good farming for a consumer? The only thing I used to tell in all meetings is, you think about your family, 4 of you or 2 of you or 5 of you. Make a diary. How much you spend for food that includes water and air. How much you spend for hospital. 20 years back or 50 years back, spending money for hospital was 5 to 10%. Now you pay at least 10% of your income for insurance itself. And if you calculate, once in 5 years, one of your family member goes to an ICU. gone. Your savings is totally lost. And many families, they spend more than they earn for hospital. And if you look at the diary of how much you have spent for food and how much you have spent for hospital, the amount you have spent for hospital is more than that of food. So what has happened is, something has happened in the food. Something has happened in the environment. Both are polluted, and without our knowledge, we are paying so much for the hospital. So you want to get better food? Go to farms where they practice ethical farming. I'm not telling go have only organic food and all. It's not available. No, I have nearest, can someone tell me nearest organic store to this campus? Yes, Natrinai. And you know, they developed it so well that they're doing better job now. In Coimbatore, every year, some 20 organic stores are opened and 19 are closed. And you know, it's really difficult to source vegetables and greens from the farmers. So the best thing you have to do is support farmers who are not using pesticides. Only then your hospital charges will come down, good farming will come up. And why I did farming is, I didn't buy any land, it's my native. You know a place called Tadagam Valley, it is not famous, it is notoriously known now. Because they have fractured the land, they have plundered the land. And I'm the only certified farmer there, that's all. And for that, I'm blamed, like, this fellow doesn't know how to make money from soil. But I'm very happy, I do something, my land value increases. If I make profit, what am I going to do? I can eat only 3 times a day. The rest goes to the bank. So I do farming, my soil get enriched, my land value, this year they tell 1 acre is 10 lakhs, next year they tell 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs. That is my profit. So I don't earn any profit, but my value increases. And for that sake, farming, what we have to do is very important. Like, if we look at farmers, they go for coconut, now the trend is for arecanut, then sugarcane. All these things, they need so much water. But instead I plant Punnai, Magilam, Alamaram, not Tennai Maram, all the traditional trees, and invite all the students. And invariably, if I invite 30 students and one fellow asks, he goes to the cow, sir, is this a male or a female? This is what we have educated. So lots of opportunities for us to work together, and agriculture is one field which nobody can, prevent its growth. And we have lots of information now thanks to technology. We have to segregate this misinformation and malinformation. True information has to come out, and we have to communicate properly, and such panels will help it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think he has very nicely put forward that, educating consumers on food consumption, comes with them understanding the health and the financial aspects of, going to sustainable food consumption, which directly relates to climate action, right? So that's the way forward in, creating education of, taking this message to masses related to sustainable food production. Now, I would like to go to Mr. Bharatidasan. Like I said, he has been a grassroots conservationist. So one aspect that he has been able to master and achieve and do it is connecting with the local communities, which means small villages where you have the farmers and tribal communities who are still challenged for their survival, getting their focus towards conservation, right? So which is very, very important, right? So we talk about buying an electric vehicle only after we, become a completely climate aware, and we are economically stabilized, and we have the opportunity to invest in such climate technologies, right? But going and convincing somebody who is already, living, who's really not, who's looking up to fancy technologies that's happening across the world, but having a tough time surviving themselves, to support conservation effort is not an easier one, right? And like Mr. Eric also pointed out, that has been an amazing thing that is happening in India, right? So tigers kill people, but people conserve tiger, right? So people living in the forest conserve tiger. You go to Yellowstone National Park, a wolf comes out of the national park, is shot dead anytime and nobody questions, right? So you kill a peacock in this campus, you will be put under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and you will be 3 years life, imprisonment will happen. The law and judiciary is also very strong with respect to conservation. Apart from that, the people are still, very passionate about nature. So from him, I would like to understand his way of connecting with people and getting them adopt. So I would just, maybe he will introduce on what is that he did with the villages in Satyamangalam and Mudumalai region with respect to vulture conservation and how his journey towards that happened. Yeah, over to you.
நன்றி. இந்த வாய்ப்பை வழங்கிய குமரகுரு கல்வி நிறுவனத்துக்கும் திரு சரவணன் அவர்களுக்கும் என்னுடைய நன்றி. உங்கள் எல்லாத்துக்கும் நான் நன்றி சொல்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி இந்த குழந்தைங்களை கூட்டிகிட்டு வந்த பெற்றோர்களுக்கு நான் என்னுடைய முதற்கண் நன்றியை நான் தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறேன். வருங்கால தலைமுறை அவங்களுக்காக நம்ம பேசுகிறோம். ஆனால் அந்த குழந்தைங்களுக்கு இப்போ புரியுதோ இல்லையோ, இந்த தலைமுறையும் போன தலைமுறையும் செய்த தவறுகள் அந்த தலைமுறைக்கு தான் நேரடியாக தாக்கத்தை ஏற்படுத்த போகுது. அவங்கள கூட்டிகிட்டு வந்து வருங்கால சூழல் முன்னோடிகளாக அவங்க இருக்கிறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு என்னுடைய நன்றியை தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறேன். மனிதர்கள் ரொம்ப ஸ்மார்ட்டாக பேர் வைக்கிறதுல ரொம்ப சிறந்தவங்க. அதுக்கு மிகச்சிறந்த உதாரணம் இந்த கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் என்ற அந்த சொல்லாடல். நம்ம பண்ணது கிளைமேட் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன். ஆனால் மிக ரொம்ப புத்திசாலித்தனமாக கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் அப்படின்ற பேரை சொல்லிட்டு நம்ம தப்பிச்சுக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஏன்னா கிளைமேட் சேஞ்சுனா மாற்றம் ஒன்றே மாறாதது. சேஞ்ச் இஸ் இன்னெவிட்டபிள். அது கிளைமேட் சேஞ்சுக்கும் எனக்கும் எந்த சம்மந்தமும் இல்லைன்னு ஈஸியாக மனித குலம் தப்பிச்சுக்கலான்றதுக்காக இந்த சொல்லாடலை தொடர்ந்து பயன்படுத்திக்கிட்டே இருக்குது. உண்மையிலே நம்ம பண்ணது இந்த கிளைமேட்டுக்கு கிளைமேட் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன். ஆனால் இந்த விஷயத்தை நம்ம போய் நாங்கள் ரெண்டு வேறு யூனிக்கான கம்யூனிட்டிகிட்ட வேலை செஞ்ச அனுபவம் அருளகத்துக்கு இருக்குது. மீனவர்கள்ட்ட வேலை செஞ்சோம், பழங்குடி மக்கள்கிட்ட வேலை செஞ்சோம். மிக மிக லோ கார்பன் ஃபுட் பிரிண்ட் ரெண்டு பேர்கிட்டையுமே நம்ம பார்த்துருக்கோம். ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி நடக்கிற கிளைமேட் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷனுக்கு மிக மிக பாதிக்கப்படுற கம்யூனிட்டி எதாக இருக்குன்னா அவங்களாகவும் தாழ்த்தப்பட்டவர்களாகவும் தலித்துகளாகவும் அதுலேயும் பெண்களாகவும் தான் அந்த கிளைமேட் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷனில் பாதிக்கப்படுறாங்க. அது ரெண்டு இதுலேயும் நான் அதுக்கு எளிமையான எடுத்துக்காட்டில் சொல்கிறேன். மாடு மேய்க்கிறவங்களோட நாங்கள் வேலை செய்கிறோம். ஒரு 300-400 மீட்டர் போனாவே போதும், அந்த மாடுக்கு தேவையான தீவனம் கிடச்சிரும், புல் கிடச்சிரும். ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி 6-7 கிலோமீட்டர் அவங்க உள்ளே ஓட்டிகிட்டு போக வேண்டிய சூழலுக்கு ஆளாயிருக்காங்க. காரணம், இங்கே புல் கிடையாது அல்லது வேறு விதமான சிக்கல்கள் சவால்கள் எல்லாம் ஆயிருக்குது. அப்போ இதில் என்னென்னா, அந்த உள்ளே போகிறப்ப அவங்க அடுத்த இன்னொரு சிக்கலை எதிர்கொள்கிறாங்க. புலி தாக்கிறதுக்கான வாய்ப்பு அதிகம். இவங்களுக்கான நேர செலவுகள் அதிகம். காலையில் போயிட்டு வர முடியல, எல்லா மாட்டையும் ஓட்டிகிட்டு வர்றதுக்கான சவால்கள் எல்லாம் அந்த மக்கள் நேரடியாக சந்திக்கிறாங்க. அதே இதில் நான் மீனவர்கள்ட்ட பார்க்குறேன். ஒரு 3 கிலோமீட்டர் போனால் காலையில் அவங்க 3 மணிக்கு அவங்களுடைய வேலை நேரம் தொடங்கும், 5:30 மணிக்கெல்லாம் வேலை நேரம் முடிஞ்சிடும். அவ்வளோதான். போட்டில் போவாங்க, ஒரு வலையை போடுவாங்க, கொண்டு மீனை சேர்த்துருவாங்க. ஆனால் அவங்கள்ட்ட நான் உரையாடல்றப்ப இப்போ நாங்கள் 10-15 கிலோமீட்டர் போக வேண்டிய தேவைக்கு ஆட்பட்டிருக்கோம். அதுக்கான ஃபியூல் எங்களுக்கு செலவு. நாங்கள் போயிட்டு வர்ற நேரம் காலையில் நேரத்தில் வந்தால் தான் மீன் மார்க்கெட்டில் இருந்தும் எடுத்துக்குவாங்க. அப்போ லேட்டாக வண்டி போயிடும். அப்போ திரும்ப விலை குறைஞ்சி தான் நாங்கள் விற்க வேண்டிய சவால், அந்த மாதிரி சிக்கல்கள்லாம் சந்திச்சுட்டு இருக்கோம். ஆனால் இந்த மாதிரி சிக்கல்களை நம்ம அவங்கள்ட்ட பேசுகிறப்ப கிளைமேட் விஷயத்தை பற்றி பேசுகிறப்ப அவங்க அதுக்கான காரணிகளாக இருக்கிறது இல்லை. ஆனால் நம்ம பேசப்பட வேண்டிய இடம் வேறு. பாலிசி லெவல் ஆள்கள்கிட்ட பேசணும். நம்மளை மாதிரி இன்ஸ்டியூஷன் அதுக்கான பில்டப் பண்ணுற வேண்டிய இடத்துல நம்ம பேசணும். இதில் எந்தெந்த உயிரினங்கள், எல்லா உயிரினங்களுமே பாதிக்கிறத நாங்கள் இப்போ அவதானிக்க முடியுது. இப்போ உதாரணத்துக்கு ரோட் கில் அதிகமாகுதுன்றப்ப நம்ம ஏதோ ஒரு சாதாரணமாக யோசிக்கிறோம் ரோட் கில் ஆகுது அப்படின்னு. ஆனால் உண்மையிலே காட்டுக்குள்ளே ரொம்ப புழுக்கம் அதிகமாக இருக்குது. அதனால விலங்குகள் ரோட்டுக்கு வர வேண்டிய தேவை ஏற்படுது. அப்போ வந்து ரோட் கில்லுக்கான வாய்ப்புகள் வந்து கூடுதலாக இருக்குது. நான் 11 வருடத்துக்கு முன்னாடி அந்த பாரு என்று சொல்லக்கூடிய வல்ச்சரை பார்க்க போனப்போ நான் அந்த இடத்துல ஊர்லேருந்து இறங்கி 400 மீட்டரில் நான் முதல் கூட பார்த்தேன். இன்றைக்கி அது வந்து 3 கிலோமீட்டர் தள்ளி உள்ள கூடு கட்ட ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு. என்னென்னா பல்வேறு காரணங்கள் இருக்கலாம், ஆனாலும் இந்த வறட்சி, இந்த கிளைமேட் சேஞ்சும் அதுக்கான முக்கியமான காரணமாக இருக்குது. அதுக்கான மரங்கள் வந்து நிறைய பட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்குது. அதுக்கு முக்கியமாக மத்தி மரத்தில் தான் அது வந்து தன்னுடைய அந்த கூட்டை வந்து அமைச்சிருக்கோம். இப்போ வனத்துறையோடு சேர்ந்து நாங்கள் ஒரு கணக்கெடுப்பு நடத்த போகிறோம். மத்தி மரத்தோடைய இப்போதைக்கு எண்ணிக்கை எத்தனை இருக்குது அப்படின்றத பார்க்க வேண்டிய சூழலுக்கு ஆளாயிருக்கும். ஏன்னா மனிதர்களில் பாதிக்கப்படுறது பார்த்திங்கன்னா அடித்தட்டு மக்கள், அதுக்கடுத்து விலங்குகளில் பார்த்திங்கன்னா இந்த மாதிரி உயிரினங்கள் வந்து மிகப்பெரிய சவாலை வந்து இந்த கிளைமேட் டிஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் வந்து ஏற்படுத்திகிட்டு இருக்குதுன்றதை இப்போ முதல் கட்டமாக நான் பதிவு பண்ணிவிட்டு அடுத்து
நன்றிங்க. ஸோ ரொம்ப சிம்பிளாக ஹி செட் ரைட். ஸோ அதாவது அவங்க வேலை செஞ்சுட்ருக்காங்க, லோ இம்பேக்ட் இருந்துகிட்ருக்காங்க. முதல்ல நம்ம வேலை செய்யலாம். அவங்கள போய் அந்த ப்ரெஷர், நீங்கள் கான்சர்வேஷன், கிளைமேட் லிட்ரஸி அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவங்கக்கிட்ட பெருசாக போய் இப்போ பேசுகிறத விட நம்ம ரியாக்ட் பண்ணுறது ரொம்ப முக்கியம் அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க. தட்ஸ் அ வெரி வேலிட் பாயிண்ட் ஃபார் திஸ் பேனல். ஏன்னா நம்ம வந்து முதல்ல சொன்ன மாதிரியே செல்ஃப் சேஞ்ச், நம்மளோட லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் சேஞ்ச் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டண்ட். அண்ட் அடித்தட்டு மக்களுக்கு இருக்கிற பிரச்சனைகளை மேனேஜ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு நம்மளோட இம்பேக்ட்னால அவங்களுக்கு நிறைய பிரச்சனைகள் வருதுன்னா நம்மளோட லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் சேஞ்சும் climate ஆக்ஷனும் இஸ் வெரி வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ஃபார் ஆல் ஆஃப் அஸ் டு மேக் ஷுர் தட் we are equally providing opportunity for all the communities living in the earth, including a bird or a bacteria or everything to survive in the earth. So very nicely put forward. And I would like to now go to Mrs. Sujini Balu. So she has been in the space of nature education, seeing children transform from a child who came unaware about nature and got interested to nature through the nature education programs, and then become stewards, leading initiatives. Maybe an example is Mridula sitting here, at their young age, and then transforming into leaders. So Sirutuli as an organization has seen such transformation in terms of climate literacy happening through the organization. Would be great if you can share some experiences of how this impact translated into actions and in a very long term. It's almost more than a 2-decade work that has happened. So just wanted to hear about how that happened.
Thank you, Saronan. Yes, so this is a very specific question that he's asked me, and we have children come to our programs every Friday. It's called a Sittukul Udan Sirutuli. So school children from the standard 7 to 9 come and spend about 3 hours with us. In such journeys, initially it was very disheartening because we thought Coimbatore Kulandengalukku ellame theriyum, because there's so much lovely nature around, and water and air and the soil and agriculture, but sadly there seemed to be a huge disconnect. அந்த மாதிரி நாங்கள் ப்ரோக்ராம்ஸ் பண்ணிவிட்டு we used to tell them about we have 4 pillars right now, 5 after the pandemic. We started off with 2003. There was a severe drought. We had no rains, monsoons for 3 years. ஸோ அப்போது 2 வாரத்துக்கு தான் தண்ணி இருக்குதுன்னு கார்பரேஷன்லேருந்து சொன்னபோது we thought, my God, what are we going to do? தண்ணியே இல்லாமல் கோயம்புத்தூரில் எப்படி இருக்க போகிறோம்? சரி, என்ன பண்ணணுன்னா, all of us have an agricultural background. The industry is something that has come into our lives maybe in the past 40 or 50 years, majorly. And so we said, all of us are aware that there are about 30 odd tanks in and around Coimbatore, but 8 major tanks, all bone dry. And so the decision was that let us desilt a tank because maybe the groundwater will be replenished and we'll start from there. And this is a true story, okay? I think all of us love stories. I love stories too. And when our managing trustee and the trustees went and they said, yes, let's go do it. They got permission for it because we had wonderful, nothing can be done without the governance being with us. So there was a wonderful collector and a commissioner at that time. They said, go do it, but we don't know how effective you will be. And they surveyed the land and the farmers around it came and said, why do you want to come and do this? Instead, give us that money, what you'll be spending on the tank. And at least, we'll pay our debts and some way we'll eke out a living. And we said, no, that is a very short-term plan. Let us do it. After all, we are, business people and we're known to take risks. So we will take it as a calculated business risk. And give us a chance because we've seen all these tanks full of water. Believe you me, we started desilting it. And then the Waterman of India, of course we did a lot of reading also because we were totally ignorant. And he came in, Dr. Rajendra Singh, and he looked around and he said, if there is no water here, there will be no water in any other part of India. That was huge, a statement by him. We got very enthused with that and we went down 17 feet and desilted the Krishnabadi tank. 5 days after that, we were racing against time because this was the 6th monsoon. In 3 years that we were missing out on. It rained. Mother Nature heard us. It filled. Coimbatore came, celebrated. Each one, some brought flowers, some brought candles, some brought lamps. And there's no turning back. That is the beginning and that's the continuation of our story. So having said that, we thought, Turvari vittit pona, it'll sustain. It doesn't happen. Because as agriculturists, we knew every time it dried up, we on the hinterland or the periphery of those tanks were asked to bring our carts and desilt the tanks at a very nominal rate. But all that is history now. And so we said, to bring rain, we have to plant trees. So our second vertical was afforestation. And after that, we said just planting trees and clearing the tanks is not enough. We found that most of the tanks were used as garbage bins. People were finding it most convenient to dispose their garbage there, their waste there. So we went into another vertical which is called Waste-Wise, where we started talking and taking small steps because it's huge. Waste is one whole world altogether. And that was one vertical. And we thought even that was not enough. We had to reach children like you. School children and college children. College children, our program is called Mottukaludan Sirtuli. And school children is Sittukaludan Sirtuli. So that is how it started. And we started talking about what it meant to have your contribution in the environment. So, cutting a long story short, we've had a lot of success stories, and one among that is one Nimal Rajan, okay? 16 years ago, he was a Sittukaludan Sirtuli student. He was, we could see in the end of 3 hours that this child was glowing. He studied in Coimbatore in college, then he moved on in life. And then he realized that this is where he wants to be. And he has got into restoration of water bodies, pan-India and outside the country too, going right up to Africa. So I think you should, Nimal Raghavan is his name. And this is a huge success story. He once reached out and called our managing trustee, Vanitha Mohan ma'am, and he said, ma'am, I don't know if you remember me, but all this passion came to me after attending your SS program. So, small steps, lot of energy, passion, And knowing that you'll make a difference makes a difference. Each one can make a huge difference. Thank you, Saran. Thank you so much for asking us.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think a very nice takeaway again from her quick talk. So actions will inspire people to learn more, right? So every time when it comes to nature education, we see a pattern that emerges. When people start to experience nature, themselves firsthand, be it walking in the forest or seeing the bird that comes to the balcony or seeing an ant that, gathers food in a fantastic way inside the home, we get curious, right? So once we get curious, we start learning about it. When we start learning about it, we develop an interest to know what's the problem. When you start learning about it, we know what's the problem. Why are these birds getting extinct? What's the challenge in their habitat? Once you get curious, you learn, you know what's the problem. And once you know what's the problem, it's a human tendency to start thinking about protecting what you love, right? So once you start developing the love for nature, be it an animal or a bird, you start thinking about how you can be a part of the change, protecting that something that you love, right? So this is the nature education, pattern that we see among children and youth every time, right? So a takeaway from the talks is, I think it's important for all of us, be either young people or school children, to immerse in nature, experience nature, understand the magnanimity and amazing things that they contribute to our survival in this earth. Once we start to understand that, I think the climate action, that understanding can be done through climate literacy, which is a larger term, and which will again trigger us to contribute back to climate action. Yeah, with that, again, another a question in terms of the lines of how education should happen with communities for climate action. So human-animal interaction is one of the biggest challenge for Coimbatore. How many of you are from Coimbatore here? Almost everyone? Yeah. Right? So do you know that every night during the migratory season, or not even the season nowadays, right? So every night there are more than 10 to 15 places where elephants, come out of the reserve forest. It's not out. They actually, interact with human being in different forms. Either, they come, just show up and go without any damage. Sometimes they damage the property. Sometimes there is a damage to human life. So there is a human-animal interaction, not just with elephants, many other species that happens. A hot spot for that is Tadagam Valley, where Mr. Jayaprakash's farm is located, right? So again, wanted to understand from him on how does awareness and education among the communities who live along the forest areas would make them, adapt to the changes that we see in the climate, which might be manageable, but might not be manageable at some point in time. How can we make them realize about the adaptation, right? So there is a huge gap between the reality and what is a ideal thing. Any farmer would say, I want my crop protected, right? So that's my livelihood. I make money out of that, right? So and an animal would say, right? So this is a way in which I traveled thousands of years ago, right? So I wanted to use this space as well. It's like sharing. The conflict comes when the human being and other life form start sharing a resource, starts fighting for a resource, be it a land or water. So in that way, in terms of getting them empowered to think what's happening in the global scenario and how they should adapt themselves to such changes that are happening to the world. So your experience of interacting with them, connecting with them, and also experience of as a farmer in that region.
Next 3 minutes, no? I'll stand up and ensure that you sit straight. Okay, an interesting topic. We are moving from town to forest. And you all love this campus, Kumaraguru. It's not just because they have NIRF ranking, NAC ranking, not just like that. It's a green campus. It's because of the trees and plants they grow here. Huge campus. Same way, just imagine you're on a flight, at least 5 kilometers above the ground. Look at the western part of Coimbatore, Pollachi. You have Anamalai Tiger Reserve. Then you travel north. Beyond Coimbatore, you have Kerala, you have Silent Valley National Park. Then Reserve Forests of Coimbatore. Then further you go, Mukkurthi National Park, Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. Then Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. Now Tamil Nadu government has announced one more sanctuary, Periyar. So we all have a U or C-shaped mountains guarding us. They give the good climate and water for us. And you know, the unique thing about our forests is they give water. It's not like Himalayas. The climate change or, you know, global warming, the ice melts, you get water. Here there is hardly 0 degree. Only in Mukkurthi, we get -2 or -3, rarely for 2 or 3 days. We get water only from the forest. That is from the Shola forest. So this Shola forest, it was identified as Nilgiri's Biosphere Reserve, congregation of good forests of Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So here we have elephants. And talking about elephants, some statistics is very important. In India, we have 27 to 30,000 elephants in India, Asian elephants, largest numbers. Now tigers are also. And in this 30,000 elephants, some 300 to 500 elephants, they are roaming around Coimbatore every year. And you know, elephants are migratory animals. They are not territorial like our tigers. Each tiger, it needs a 10 to 20 square kilometer area. But elephants are not like that. They'll roam around. They'll go all 3 states. And what had happened, you look at Coimbatore, western parts of Coimbatore, we have different valleys. Pollachi, then we have Bolambatti, Tondamuttur, Sirvani, one U-shaped valley. Tadagam, another U-shaped valley. Periyanaikampalayam to Governor, another U-shaped valley. Then after Governor, Karamadai, Seeliur, Tekambatti, then ends up at Metupalayam, and it enters into Eastern Ghats. This is Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. So this is an important pathway for elephants. In the summer, they'll be in Nilgiris. In the winter, they'll come down to Satyamangalam. All these years, they were doing it in a routine. Now, what had happened, in all these U-shaped valleys, we have become developed. The humans, we have become developed. So what we have done, we have constructed all buildings and we have blocked their roads. That is the migratory path. The migratory paths are they are called as corridors. So one habitat to another habitat, when the elephants have to move, like from hill to slope or slope to plain, there will be a small narrow path which is called as corridor. When there is a hindrance in the corridor, what happens is the elephants bypass. So instead of going in the routine way, which is blocked, they come down. So what has happened in the U-shaped valley, instead of taking U, they go straight. Because our mountains are unique. Our mountains are not smaller ones. They are taller peaks, like Lambton peaks you see from here. It is the tallest peak in Coimbatore. So they cannot climb. Imagine, from this Tadagam Valley, they have to go to Karamadai or Governor Valley. They usually went near the CRP of Kodambalayam. Now we have a big military base. You know, gun sound, they can't do that. They cannot climb. So they have to come down to Metupalayam Road and go. When they come here, they have tasted rich coconut groves, sugarcane fields. And what they had happened is, they become residential. They are no more migratory. That is the problem. And the solution, like Kavin had told, mitigation, adoption, resilience, everything we can say. But who is affected? It's only the farmer. And the way we cultivate, we have to change. So we have to go for solar fencing. Forest department is doing something. Now, every day they are sending SMS alerts through technology. But yet, no farmer can sleep peacefully. That is the problem. Why? Because we want resorts, at the fringes. We want to enjoy nature. That is the problem. And elephants cannot adapt. We can adapt, but elephants can't do, because they need to walk at least 20-30 kilometers a day, 300 kilograms of food, not the same food. And the problem is they are eating our fast food. That is the plastic and, to get a grass. And one more thing I want to tell you is the change in the elephants. I'm not telling all doomsday prediction. Actually, our forests and wildlife are good, very good now. If we see elephants, 20 years back when I was involved in trekking, looking a male tusker is a big thing. The ratio, children might be, it may be surprised. What is the male-female ratio in elephants now? Can you make a wild guess? For how many male elephants, how many female elephants are there? Like human beings, it is like 52 females or 48 males. What is the ratio in elephants now? What would be? Make a wild guess. 1:20. Yes, right. So for every 80 female elephants, for every 95 female, only 5 male elephants are there. Now it might be some 10:90. 15 years back, it was 99:1. It was almost on the verge of extinction. When all these development things happened, it was almost on the verge of extinction. Imagine 1 male, 99 female. What will happen? Just think of it. If our ratio is like that, what will happen to that male fellow? Same thing was happening to the elephants. Now we are in a better management, and that is why government is increasing the protected areas, tiger reserves, all those things. And now they are peaceful. That is why we see a lot of names. Ari Komban, Kudu Komban, what is that, Bahubali. Those days they were not there. Sighting one tusker is a big thing, and that will be shot down dead by poachers. And the thing, psychologically they were affected. They never wanted their tuskers to be grown, so they became Makna elephants. Psychologically they hated their tusks. So many male elephants, they didn't have their tusks because they never liked. So that is, tuskless males are Makna. So a lot of psychological, cultural factors are there. And coming to the problem now, why it is worse in Tadagam, it's because of the fractured landscape. Because Coimbatore city is developing, we have 4 parks, techno parks. For that we need bricks. For that we need soil. In Tadagam, government permits only up to 3 feet you can dig up the soil and make it. But you can see craters for 30. Even yesterday, today's newspaper, you can see in Governor, one small guy like this fellow got drowned in that pit. The rainwater, it was like a small pond, and that fellow got drowned. There you come there, you can see 50 to 100 feet they have dug up, and by paying nothing to the government. And it's all, I don't want to discuss much of, wrong things here. It all depends. You have to decide whether you are buying an ethical product or not. Are there any alternatives? Like we are telling, one ma'am was asking, like even windmills are good, but yet the agriculture crops are affected. So we need to think pros and cons, and we have to support the good ones. That is what I can tell you. And this problem, elephants coming, the place itself is called as Anekati. So elephants were there earlier, they say. Only now it has become big because lesser number of farmers, they can't fight back, or they don't know how to control them, and they sell it. And it becomes a big issue these days because of media.
Thank you, sir. I think, again, his point was on ethical business, right? So you start doing something, be it a professional or a startup or a venture. I think it's very important to make sure, be it in a Tadagam Valley or be it in the city or somewhere up in the sky, wherever it is, right? So we being responsible enough to make sure what we do has minimal impact on environment is very important for us to make sure, you know, all these challenges don't happen. You know, I specifically wanted Mr. Jayaprakash to talk about this because this is something that all of us should be aware, being in Coimbatore, and see how we can take this message to different people to make sure that, right, so we understand this issue first to make sure, you know, we be part of the solution. And my next question to Mr. Bharatidasan. So he's not just a vulture conservationist, right? So he has also been working on trees and plants, right? So I'm sure most of you would have visited nurseries in many places. We buy plants from various nurseries across, you know, wherever we travel. One very, you know, you know what happens in the nursery space? Right now, all our nurseries do two simple things. They buy the plants from Rajamundri and market it here across the country, right? So, and few places in Kerala and Rajamundri, and market it everywhere, right? So, where we are actually losing our skills on producing the nursery techniques and producing climate resilient, native and adaptable trees that can survive and create huge, you know, higher impact in the local context, right? So that's what happens, because raising a plant, you know, is an art. It requires the choice of the mother plant, finding the best mother plant for the seed, collecting the seed at the right time. Many trees will produce seed only for 3 days in a year, right? So finding that 3 days, going there, standing below the tree, collecting the seed and bringing back, processing that seed naturally to make sure we produce the condition to germinate and get that germinated seed, you know, trained to survive challenging environmental conditions, and then using it for planting, right? So this is something that requires a dedication and you know, commitment to do, right? So and we are very proud to say that Mr. Bharatidasan is doing that, right? So Amma, we have somebody amongst us, a very few individual who spends time, you know, he spends most of the time walking in the forest, identifying the best tree to collect the seeds. Goes, collects the seeds, comes back, germinates, and then uses it for community planting across this region. And we are very proud that, you know, his nursery is supported by us, and it's there in this campus, right? So he raises almost 100,000 trees a year from the campus, and it's sent across the you know, state and nation to get planted. So I just wanted to him to tell how, you know, educating people about the importance of native trees is important, you know, to all of them, so that they understand why native trees are important, and it has to be nurtured and you know, protected and appreciated, celebrated wherever we see them. Yeah.
நன்றி. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி நான் இன்னொரு நன்றியும் சொல்லணும். குமரகுரு கேம்பஸில் வந்து அருளகம் நாற்றுப்பண்ணை நடத்துறதுக்கு ஒரு இடத்த வழங்கி உதவியதற்கு நான் இந்த மன்றத்தின் முன்னாடி எங்களுடைய அருளகம் சார்பாக மீண்டும் ஒரு நன்றியை தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறேன். நம்ம எல்லாமே டிட்டோவாக எல்லாமே ஐரோப்பியர்கள்ட்டேருந்து காப்பி அடிக்கிற பழக்கம் நிறைய இருக்குது. அதே மாதிரி கார்டனிங்லேயும் அதே மாதிரி தான். நம்ம ஊரில் உள்ள செடிகள் அழகாக நம்மளுடைய எட்ஜ் பிளான்ட்டாக, ரோ பிளான்ட்டாக, ஒரு நிழல் தர்ற மரங்களாக எல்லாமே வர வைக்க முடியும். ஆனால் நம்ம எங்கேயோ இருந்து காப்பி எடுத்து வச்சுக்கிறோம். அதில் என்னன்னா, புல் தரையிலையும் கூட மெக்சிகன் கிராஸ், அந்த மாதிரி கொரியன் கிராஸ், இப்படி தான் நம்ம போகிறோம். நமக்கான புல் வகைகள் இருக்குது. மிக குறைந்த தண்ணீர் செலவில் பயன்படுத்துகிற செடிகள். நீங்கள் தண்ணீரே பயன்படுத்தாமல் வர்ற விராலி செடி, மருதாணி செடியெல்லாம் நீங்கள் ஓரத்தில் பண்ணலாம். ஆனால் நம்ம வந்து ஒரு ப்ரீசெட் மைண்டை வந்து நமக்குள்ளே பூத்திட்டோம். அப்போ அந்த மாதிரி விஷயமா தேடி போகிறப்ப அதுக்கான தண்ணீர் செலவுகள், மற்ற எல்லா இடுபொருள் செலவுகள், அதுக்கான பெஸ்ட்டு அட்டாக் எல்லாமே அதிகம். நம்ம நேட்டிவ் பிளான்ட்டை பயன்படுத்துகிறப்ப இதுலேருந்து எல்லாத்துலேயுமே விடுபடலாம். நம்ம ஒரு அலங்காரம் படுத்துறது கூட உள்ளூர் செடி, உள்ளூர் பூக்கள் இதை பயன்படுத்தினோம்னா அது நிச்சயமாக கிளைமேட்கான ஒரு கன்சர்வேஷனுக்கு ரொம்ப உதவியாக இருக்கும், அந்த செடிகளையும் காப்பாற்றுறதுக்கு உதவியாக இருக்கும். அதோட இன்னொன்று நம்ம கிளைமேட் லிட்ரஸியை பற்றி நம்ம இதுலேயே நான் இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் கூடுதலாக ஆட் பண்ணுறோம். நம்ம பொதுவாக நம்ம வாங்க எல்லாம் இன்றைக்கி ப்ரேயர் பண்ணலாம், கிளைமேட் குளோபல் வார்மிங்கை குறைக்கிறதுக்குன்னா நிறைய பேர் வருவாங்க. ஆனால் இப்போ குளத்தை தூர்வாரணும், மரம் நடுறதுன்றப்ப நிறைய பேர் வருவாங்களான்றது ஒரு கேள்வி. ஆனால் நம்ம ரெண்டாவது விஷயத்தான் தேர்ந்தெடுக்கணுன்றது இந்த மன்றத்தில் நான் பதிவு பண்ணுறேன். அது மட்டும் இல்லை, நம்ம நிறைய விஷயங்கள் வந்து உள்ளூர் மக்கள்கிட்ட, மண்ணின் மைந்தர்கள்ட்ட நிறைய விஷயம் கிடைக்கும். நம்ம காட்டுக்குள்ளே போகிறப்ப ஒரு 45 டிகிரி செல்சியஸ் வெயில் அடிக்குது, நம்மெல்லாம் என்ன நினைப்போம்னா உடனே தண்ணியை குடிக்கணும் அல்லது முகத்தை கழுவணும் தண்ணியில் அப்படின்ற சிந்தனை தான் இருக்குது. ஆனால் நம்மளோட வர்ற உள்ளூர் மக்கள் அழகாக நமக்கு வழிகாட்டுறாங்க. இல்லை நீங்கள் வந்து தண்ணியை வந்து முகத்தில் அடிக்காதீங்க, கையை கழுவாதீங்க, நல்ல ஃபுல் ஹேண்ட் சட்டை போட்டுங்க. இந்த மாதிரி விஷயமெல்லாம் கிளைமேட் சேஞ்சுக்கு வந்து உள்ளூர் மக்கள்கிட்ட நம்ம நிறைய பாடம் படிக்க முடியும். இன்ஸ்டியூஷனும் அதுக்கு கான்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ண முடியும். இது ரெண்டையும் இணைச்சி இந்த கிளைமேட்டை காப்பாற்றுறதுக்கு நம்ம முன் வரணும். அதுக்கு மிக முக்கிய படியாக வந்து நம்ம உள்ளூர் தாவரங்களை வந்து நம்மளுடைய கார்டனிங்க்கு பயன்படுத்துறது ரொம்ப வந்து பொருத்தமான விஷயமா இருக்குன்றதையும் நான் பதிவு பண்ணுறேன்.
நன்றிங்கண்ணா, தேங்க்யூ. ஸோ with that, I think we can just go for some questions. So we're already almost 1 p.m. now. So few questions for this panel from the audience. So we'll try to answer in another 5-10 minutes and then wind up.
Good afternoon all. Myself Karthi Tirumurthy, sociology student from PSD College of Arts and Science. We humans are always destructing everything. Allies, we are destroying our environment wherever we are. Even in the land, we are destroying it. Even if we choose the air, we are destroying it. Even since from 1926, we are moving to the space. There also we are leaving the waste in space also. And at present, we are getting many impacts on that too. So, if we get an opportunity, we people are using it well, but we are not thinking about the consequences. So my question is to all the dignitaries, that in what ways we, the future generation, can, because in the future we'll be getting another field through which we can excel. So how we can avoid these things, by what way we can avoid the actions which affects the climatical conditions.
நம்மளோட எல்லாரோட எய்முமே வந்து நிறைய சம்பாதிக்கணும், சந்தோஷமா இருக்கணும். ஓகே, சம்பாதிச்சிடலாம், ஆனாலும் சந்தோஷம் வரல. ஏன்னா நம்மளுக்கு அது வேணும் இது வேணும், அது எல்லாமே எப்படி இருக்கு, அழகா இருக்கணும். Here comes the point. Whatever you consider is beauty, it is there only with nature. You agree or not? Ultimately, you have to go to nature. Even the color of the shirt, the green, your hair, சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா, மயில் போன்ற கூந்தல்மா, ஒவ்வொன்றும் மேகம் போன்ற கூந்தல்மா. இன்னைக்கு கன்வீனியன்ஸுக்காக பண்ணுறோம். பட் நீங்கள் இந்த ஒவ்வொரு ஷர்ட்டு நீங்கள் சாரி கடையில் வேலை பார்த்தீங்கன்னா தெரியும், அந்த கலரை வச்சு எவ்வளோ லேடிஸ் வந்து அந்த கலரை வந்து எவ்வளோ அனிமல் அது பண்ணுவாங்க. ஸோ நேச்சர் இஸ் த ஒன்லி வே விச் கேன் கீப் அஸ், விச் கேன் கிவ் அஸ் எ செக்யூர்ட் ஃபீச்சர். எது பண்ணாலும் நேச்சரை மனசில் வைங்க. நீங்கள் வீடு கட்டுங்க, ஏசி போடுங்க, அதுக்கு பதிலாக ஒரு புங்க மரம் பக்கத்தில் இருக்கிற மாதிரி பார்த்துக்குங்க. ஒரு மரம் இருந்தான்னா உங்கள் வீட்டுக்கு ஏசி கம்மியாகும், சம்பாதிக்கிறது நீங்கள் கம்மியாக குறைச்சிக்கலாம். இப்போ எங்கள் ஃபார்ம் நான் சொல்கிறேன்னா, அட்லீஸ்ட் இங்கேருந்து ஒரு 10 குழந்தைங்க குமரகுருலேருந்து வந்து பார்த்துருப்பாங்க. அந்த கொய்யாப்பழம் வந்து மார்க்கெட்டு வந்து வத்தி வாடி வாசம் எழுதுனதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்து இது சரியில்லைன்னு தூக்கி போகிறாங்க. ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷாக சாப்பிட்டோன்னே பழம் இப்படிலாம் இருக்குமா சார்ன்றாங்க. ஒரு பழம் மரத்தை நீங்கள் உற்பத்தி பண்ணி அதுக்கடியில் தூங்கி பாருங்கள், ஒன்றுமே இல்லை. காலையில் 4 மணிக்கு நான் சொல்லுவேன், எந்த பேர்டு எனக்கு 3:30 மணிலேருந்து ஒரு 5 வகையான பேர்டு எனக்கு சத்தம் கொடுக்கும் 6 மணி வரைக்கும். நான் அலாரம் பார்க்க வேண்டியதில்லை. அங்கே படுக்காமல் நான் சிட்டிக்குள்ளே வந்து படுத்தேன்னா எனக்கு தூக்கம் வராது. ஸோ சொன்னார்ல, ஆப்பு தேவையில்லை, ஸ்லீப்பு தான். ஸோ அது நேச்சர் தான் கொடுக்கும்.
Good afternoon, panel and friends. I'm from SNS College of Technology. I'm Dr. Sendil Kumar. I'm representing Ecological and Trekking Club. I'm coordinating it. And like to say about, sir has given a lot of information about the elephants. I want to talk about bisons. I'm from Ooty. My native is Ooty. Normally we used to go to Mudumalai once upon a time when I was like doing my LKG and UKG. We used to visit Mudumalai. If we see one bison, we are very happy with that. And today it comes to my home. Not one cluster. Why? So it's a big question there. And like normally in Ooty, estates are more and agriculturists are more. Today agriculturists are like, they are not into agriculture. Why? Because they are not able to cultivate due to this, the visit of, regular visit of bisons. So at the back, the government support is very much needed in part of this, the problem. Lot of, as sir told, the resorts has been more increased nowadays. Village areas, there are a lot of resorts are increased, and people from the other places, they like to visit those places because they doesn't like city areas. So here, where the problem arises, once if the government supports all this, if they bring some restriction in constructing these resort areas in village areas, so there are certain places like industrial area, only industries to be constructed. Residential area, only residents. So likewise, like normally forest area, only the wild animals should live. But what happens? Wild animals is living in our residential area now.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we understand. So can I just add? Yeah.
One is their destruction of pathways. Second is the garbage. Even elephants are going to come to our market soon. In theatrical, elephants are using the dump. You can see lots of plastic because we don't have any responsibility. We lack responsibility. How we use our garbage? We just throw it, and elephants, guards. You can see Kotagiri and Kundur markets, they are regular visitors. So once we civilize ourselves, they'll keep away.
Another thing, same thing, sir. There is one place called Karadipallam. That is like around 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers away from our village. So we use, the Karadipallam means it's very far away, where we have to go there to see at least Karadi Varda abdin paakradhukku. But inniki nama veetu munnadi Karadi Vardana, because as sir told, we are putting all our garbages in and around. So that visits inside our village, so that the number also increases towards that.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said. I just want to tell you a small thing. During this pandemic, the hills, the visitors to the hills, to the Nilgiris, had gone down. Okay, it's very, very restricted, and thanks to the collector, Innocent Divya, who was there, it was pretty airtight. And unless you had your own place there, you were not allowed to go up. And what was, I have to tell you, was so gratifying that the whole forest area seemed to welcome not having us. It was beautiful. They regenerated. The monkeys went off the road. They learned to go and forage for themselves, which was also very heartening, because we all think we are, God's answer to not just the earth, but all the animals on earth also. And that we are so, like people for animals sort of thing. I also love animals a lot. That you feed the monkeys. Now they become beggars on the road, on the Metupalayam Kunnur Ooty road. For a short while they suffered. They did not know. They had forgotten how to forage. And you throw your biscuit packets, and you buy nuts, and then you buy them vegetables on next to the Kunnur railway station, and it's all laid on like one bandi for them to eat. And then you say you don't want the monkeys to come and raid your fruit garden. How is that possible? Do they know? Did they go to schools or colleges like us to say you can only go and eat fruit and vegetable in the forest, and you can come to the road and we will feed you biscuits and nuts? For 3 years, it was bliss for the animals. And the bison, went back to being quietly in the forest. Now they're on the main road in Kunur, and tourists think it's bravado to stand and take a photograph, and they've had the huge fatalities, and so then they say you need to kill the bison. Whose fault is that? We've stopped being human. I think they're more human than us. I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Just adding to that, right, so both of them had a very interesting perspective, right? So he talked about why it's pulled outside the forest, and ma'am talked about, how the jungle responded when it had less impact, right? So one thing that all of us have to understand is animal welfare and conservations are very, there is a thin line being an animal welfare person, being a conservationist, and there is a lot of terms related to this, right? So somebody growing a puppy in the home or a cat in the home and telling that I'm an animal lover is fantastic. Yes, you are an animal lover. You are compassionate about it. You appreciate it. You love it, right? So conservation is totally not different. What we are talking about is conservation. Conservation is not looking at single animal as an individual, right? So it's looking at the ecosystem as a whole. One simple example is, when you see a wounded deer, right? So a deer with a broken leg, bleeding, standing on a road in a Masnagudi, a safari road, right? So an animal welfare person who loves and cares for an individual being will stop, try to help it, call somebody, a support person who can come and help that individual animal. But a conservationist will just drive away, right? So because a wounded tiger is an easy prey for an ailing tiger, right? So a wounded tiger, there are a lot of, like he said, bison or Indian gaur, right? So there are tigers coming out of the jungle, right? So there are man-eaters, which we might see more happening in the future, right? So because of two reasons. One is protection, which is again, like the elephant population increase, we have a fantastic, better protection in India, like Eric said, where the cat populations are also increasing, right? So how do we, to manage such challenges, thinking about conserving ecosystem as a whole is very important than looking at individual animal, right? So Indian gaur also is the same instant. I heard from one of the most reputed scientists, wildlife scientist in India, Dr. John Singh, right? So this is about 10 years back. He clearly said bisons in Kodaikanal. Now he was, that time, before 15 years, what happened in Kunur happened in Kodaikanal, right? So he said it should be shot, right? So the funds generated from, game hunting of Indian gaur should be invested in conservation, right? So he's a scientist talking with data points in hand, knowing that there is no habitat for higher, a population of Indian gaur to survive in that forest. And there is no predator there which can manage that population, right? So the presence of tigers were not there in Kodaikanal earlier, but now they have started migrating. But tiger is the only predator, natural predator for an Indian gaur to manage its population, right? So making such decisions at a policy level is very, very important to make sure that we manage a balanced ecosystem in the forest, which will contribute to climate action, which contributes to climate action, which are major contributors towards being a carbon sink or supporting, managing the challenges that we face right now, right? So that is one thought that I thought I should leave here. And with that, I think, with the interest of time, we will all be here. We can interact if all of you have any more questions. And I would like to close by telling that climate literacy, so we'll just close.
கிளைமேட் லிட்ரஸி தொடர்பான தான் நம்மளுடைய பார்க்கும் பார்வை. நம்ம இப்போ கோயம்புத்தூர்னா ஆகா மேம்பாலம் வந்துருச்சு, உயர்ந்த மாடி கட்டடங்கள் வந்துருச்சு, ஏர்போர்ட் வந்துருச்சுன்றத பார்க்குறத விட, இந்த நம்ம தெருவில் விலை உயர்ந்த கார்கள் போகுதுன்றதை விட, இந்த ஊரை நம்ம வாழ தகுந்த ஊராக வச்சுருக்கோமான்ற பார்வை தான் கிளைமேட் லிட்ரஸியில் மிக அடிப்படையான பார்வை. நம்மளுடைய பார்வை எப்படி இன்னும் மேம்பட்டு இருக்கணும்னா, நடந்து வர்றவங்க, சைக்கிள் வர்றவங்களுக்கு நல்ல முக்கியத்துவம் தரணும். பெரியோரை வியத்தலும் இளமே, சிறியோரை இகழ்தல் அதனினும் இளமே, அதை மனசில் வச்சுக்கிட்டு நம்மளுடைய
தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச். அருமையாக சம் அப் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. ஐ திங்க் that's a fantastic sum up for this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the guide.
Thank you so much to the speakers and the moderators. So I request the dignitaries to stay back for the felicitation, and I would like to call the student coordinator Preetham and Sushmita to felicitate Jayaprakash CR, Ed, Department of Communication, PSG CAS. Next, I would like to call Keetana and Kavan to facilitate Sujini Balu, Convener Awareness, Sirutuli. Next, I like to call Yuvaraj and Arunyashri to felicitate Bharati Dasan sir, co-founder, Arulagam. Thank you, speakers. You can take the seats off the dais. So next, for the adding addition to a climate action talk, we have the privilege of hearing with a renowned expert. Anul Shivoti is the chair of Y20 India, G20 India's youngest engagement group, entrepreneur, and over to the screen.
आने वाले समय में गुजरात से लेकर अरुणाचल प्रदेश तक, कश्मीर से लेकर कन्याकुमारी तक, भारत के हर एक शहर, हर एक गांव, हर एक नागरिक तक Y20 पहुंचे, इसके लिए हम पूरी तैयारी कर रहे हैं। एक युवा सोच, युवा नेतृत्व के मार्गदर्शन में हमारा देश जैसे आगे बढ़ रहा है, वैसे ही Y20 एक अलग कीर्तिमान Y20 प्लस साबित होगा।
So I think that was something that Y20 wanted us to, play. Thank you so much for being here. I hope all of you had a fantastic day-to-day learning something about climate action. And I would like to thank all the panelists, Mr. Eric, Mr. Kavin, and all other panelists for joining for the day to make sure that this day was really impactful and had a good learning experience for all of you. And most importantly, all our student volunteers. So we had some amazing, team that worked on putting this whole event together. I'm sure all of you would have had calls from all of them. So a big applause for all of them for making sure that this event happened. And most importantly, Mridula, right? So she's the person who actually triggered this thought of getting Y20 done here. In such a young age, working so deep on climate action and creating impact through different ways. Sincere thanks to her, and appreciate all the efforts that she's been putting in. Thank you so much for coming. And we have organized lunch for all of you. Our volunteers will guide all of you to the lunch area. Thank you so much.